I believed I was a superstar. It came from my mom.
I think from what I've seen, there's a version of Dayna that goes, like theater kid becomes art organization leader, then becomes a coach. That version's accurate, but I think it also misses everything that's actually important.
What lane is it you'd like me to be in? Because I'm going to run as far away from that as humanly possible. Nobody gets to define my lane, just I do. And you just don't know who needs to hear it, because when my husband and I were so open around his addiction and recovery and the way we rebuilt our marriage, I could give you names of people whose lives we've saved. I was born to be a superstar, and I still am. As a woman, and be belittled or be sexualized or be mistreated in front of men who have the potential to cast you, who have the potential to change the trajectory of your life maybe, you smile through it. And so if somebody were to mistreat me today, I would not smile through it because I have nothing to lose anymore.
What you've been doing your entire life is really refusing to wait for permission. Thinking about the turned down full-time jobs over a decade, because you had a quiet, serious belief that something bigger was, coming. And I don't think you were wrong. I think it just, at the end of the day, you were the one that delivered it for yourself. And what makes that interesting, maybe isn't the confidence that you've carried in front of rooms, but I think it's the moments where that confidence maybe got shaken and then what you did next with it. So before we talk about that presence of leadership or what you teach currently, I want to go back to the person who's making all those early bets on yourself and, what you maybe understood then that most people take decades to figure out. So when you think back to the younger version of yourself, the one who was turning down full-time jobs and holding space for something bigger, what did you actually believe about yourself at that time, and where did that belief come from?
I believed I was a superstar, and it came from my mom. I have this very complex relationship with my mother, as many women do. So when I was really little, we lived in a really, really small town, fewer than 500 people. And we used to watch the Miss America contest. I think it probably was in black and white when I was really little. And my mom every year would cry and say, "You're going to be Miss America." And it's so funny because, I'm the least pageant girl you'll ever meet. We never talked about putting me in a pageant. I never wanted to be in a pageant. She didn't really mean that. It's just that was the biggest thing she could see. And so I both knew she was completely off the deep end. Really, can anyone who's ever met me imagine me as Miss Anything? But I somehow understood that I was not just a kid born in this tiny little town who was going to be regular. And so it just built a belief in me the same way I don't question that I'm left-handed. I don't question that I'm a redhead in a family of brunettes and Italians. All these things about me are unexpected. And when it's all you've ever known, you kind of don't question it. Yeah. So I just held on to it and continue to.
Take me back to one of those nights or evenings sitting in front of that TV with your mother's eccentric belief in you. Help us understand maybe the energy or those moments spent in front of the TV with your mom.
So these are when I'm 2, 3, 4 years old. I'm really little. I can see myself in flannel pajamas. Probably I've got a blankie with me, and my mom's on one side, my dad's on the other. And I think my mom is just such a definitive speaker. If you met my mom and she said to you, "Jay, you're a 7'1" tall basketball player," you might for a second think, "Am I? Oh," and then be a little surprised that you aren't. So I think there's just there's a definitiveness to her that definitely seeped into me, passed on to me for good and for bad. It's not always great to make super bold proclamations, but in this instance, what it did is it lit a spark in me that I just, boy, there have been times where I have been quite certain it has been extinguished, only to discover that it comes back tenfold stronger.
Yeah. And when you had said that most women maybe have an interesting relationship with their mother, can you help paint a picture of what that has maybe meant when you were younger and to where it's transpired to later in your life as you've maybe made that realization?
Well, I mean, I can only speak for my relationship because I don't even have daughters. I only have a son. But my mom was very young when she had me. My parents were only 19 and 23. So in some ways, I think we sort of had a sister relationship. And I think that's complex. I also don't have any sisters, so I can't really speak to that. But on one hand, she was building this extraordinary belief in me. And on the other hand, she would walk by if I had a spoonful of peanut butter and say, don't do too much of that, you'll get fat. And so it created this like, well, am I Miss America? Am I fat? Am I, so there was just always sort of this, I wasn't exactly sure where I stood.
Yeah.
And I will say that I am working on a memoir right now and have been for the last couple of years. And it's been really painful and healing to work through that relationship. She is incredible, absolutely incredible. And she's been, she's made some incredibly difficult, often offhand comments to me that meant very little to her and meant everything to me. And I think that that is the devastating paradox of parenting. You realize something that you said that you didn't think about or didn't hold on to becomes a pillar for your child. And that's really hard to cope with. And so I think some of my understanding of my relationship with her is also just I've made huge mistakes with my child very unintentionally.
At what age do you maybe think that you compartmentalized some of those things and have come to fruition now of where you're at writing your memoir?
52. I mean, it really, a lot of this realization came about because of the writing, and I just did all of that. So I was 51, I guess, in 2024.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. What when you took us back to that black and white TV with mom and dad on both sides and her, emphatically, putting into you that you're gonna be this superstar, this person. How did that support continue, waver, change as maybe the years or decades went on in your youth?
Well, certainly both of my parents were incredibly supportive of me as an actor and a singer, and very much in the arts always. I did theater with both of them. We all did community theater together. They were supportive of me getting a theater degree. As much as I love and value the arts, there's almost no parent who says, you know what I want? I want you to get a theater degree.
Yeah.
But they were very supportive of that. And really continue to be. I mean, they were just cheerleaders of mine. They didn't rubber stamp everything, but they supported me where they needed to and where it mattered most. And I never questioned that I was an artist because they never questioned that I was an artist. And I think that's incredibly admirable because it's not easy to do, because when you look at a child who says, I want a life in the arts, that is not going to be an easy life for most of us.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. What else was Dayna like when Dayna was back in those years being supported by dad and
I think one of the upsides and downsides to having someone in your life that emphatic is you sort of adopt that quality too. So I have spent a lot of these last years working hard to not be quite so definitive, so emphatic, so black and white. And it's really hard. I have an opinion on everything, Jay. Absolutely everything. Doesn't mean I have to share it. And so that's been a challenging piece to learn. I learned a lot of that as a CEO. When you sit with a donor who makes some sort of comment that you think, well, now I want to break your arm, but you have to smile through it, you learn a lot. When you sit as a woman and be belittled or be sexualized or be mistreated in front of men who have the potential to cast you, who have the potential to change the trajectory of your life, maybe, you smile through it. And so I think that's who I was. Who I am now is I don't have to express every opinion, but boy, if somebody were to mistreat me today, I would not smile through it because I have nothing to lose anymore. And so that feels both, I'm happy for the edges I've sanded down, and I'm happy for the volume I'm turning up.
And what do you think, maybe people got wrong about you in those moments and times, in being a CEO in those years?
Oh, that I was way too liberal, way too bossy, that I should have understood that sports will always matter more than the arts. They don't. They're important. I grew up in a sports family. I'm not anti-sports, but you find me an 80-year-old playing football because I can give you 10 80-year-olds who are painting and dancing and drawing and acting. So I think there was that. I think people thought I didn't know my lane. And what I'm here to say is, what lane is it you'd like me to be in? Because I'm going to run as far away from that as humanly possible. Nobody gets to define my lane, just I do.
And what maybe did you understand about that then that you understand clear now about what these other people wanting you to be in whatever they define as this lane?
I understood that I live in a repressed part of the world and that I make people uncomfortable because I'm unwilling to acquiesce. You don't like me? Fantastic. Find someone you like. I don't care. I really don't care, and I never have. I don't actively work to make people dislike me, but boy, I said in my interview at the Arts Partnership, they asked me how I dealt with people who didn't like me, and I said, I'm like mayonnaise. You either like me or you don't. And if you don't, what can I do to change your opinion? Which they were pretty horrified by. And it was pretty audacious. I mean, that tells you how naive I was going into a job interview. But I came back for a second interview and they said, I feel like we should talk about the mayonnaise comment. And I said, yeah, I mean, I have been reflecting on that a bit. And one of the interviewers said, what would you like to say? And I said, I think actually I'd like to say I'm like Mary Poppins. I'm practically perfect in every way. And I stopped talking and they laughed, waiting for me to go, I'm just kidding. And I didn't. And I'm not practically perfect in every way, but I'm as practically perfect as I need to be right now to do what I want to do. And so I don't apologize for it, really and truly. If you don't like me, I wish you well and send you on your way. Because as many things as I have opinions about, there are people I don't like. And it doesn't seem to be affecting any of them. And so it's fine. We don't need to like everybody.
Yeah. And with having such a confidently bold in the best way perspective of that take it or leave it mindset, where do you think that stemmed from the most to really be able to internalize that confidently? I think people can do that, but sporadically without consistency. So for yourself, where did that internalize to the boldness of being okay with that, which takes a lot to get there?
I have to think I was born with it. My mom tells this story that the day I was born, 2 or 3 hours afterwards, my parents walked down the hall to the baby window where the nursery was. And there were 2 of us in this tiny little rural southwestern North Dakota hospital. This tiny little perfect girl with a little bow in her hair, swaddled and sleeping, and then this beast of a baby with crazy red hair shooting out all over the place and huge blue eyes. I was 3 hours old at this point, and I was on my tummy with my head up. Wow. That's not possible. And my mom turned to my dad and said, I feel like we're in real trouble here. And that's just who I am. it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. If you met my parents, you'd go, really? They're lovely, not at all aggressive humans. And I don't know. I just picked it up from all over the place. I really think it's some of how I can say to you, I was born to be a superstar and I still am.
Absolutely. I think there's something along the lines of, I think for myself being in a creative space, and I think I may even said this to you when we first met, when you were at the Arts Partnership, of thank God for technology, because I don't define what I do as true creativity of an expression of what I'm physically able to do with my body, sing, dance, paint, draw. I would define those as like the marquee three things, this and video cameras, right? Thank God for those things, or whoever you want to thank, right? In your own world. But yeah, I think it's an interesting thing that my journey, and I'm not going to get into it too deep, but of just systems have, I think, worked to strip us of our creativity. And I think it's really interesting and admirable
100%.
for a person that clearly has been born with it, like yourself. There is no way to chisel down the dust of your belief in that, as so many other things in this world not try, but evidently end up doing that to us, I think, over time.
I think so too. We're definitely, we suffer from the Henry Ford Model T. People are going to work on assembly lines, so that's what education needs to do. Then we suffer from the space race, which is what really started the whole STEM mindset, which is both admirable and has been enormously damaging to the liberal arts mindset. And we suffer from funding always being a problem, and the discussion and acceptance that sports are the only place where you can learn how to play on a team and follow orders and do all of these things. Nobody on a football team learned that more than I did on a stage. They just didn't. Again, it's not an either or, it's a both and, but we live in an either or. No school district in this country, if faced with a budget crisis, would say, we're going to keep the arts and cut football. They just wouldn't. You don't get traumatic brain injuries in the arts. I mean, it's just inconceivable to me. So I think some of my insistence is also just those 13 years of advocating for it and watching people try to get me to concede that the arts were something that mattered and that you cared about when everything else was taken care of. And I will not concede that point. The arts are why we are human, period. And I don't need to have the CEO role of an arts nonprofit to believe that.
Yeah. And what do people get wrong about that mindset of sports and arts not being in the same parallel or the same?
That it's an either or.
Yeah.
Even in big schools where if you're an athlete, you can't take choir or you can't take this, that, or the other. That's where the small schools are lucky, because they don't have enough kids to say, well, you can be an athlete and you can be an artist. You get to and kind of have to do both. And I moved from a small school to a big school between my freshman and sophomore year of college. Or high school, excuse me. So I really understand that idea. And for me, moving to a big school was incredible because I had no interest in being an athlete. And so I got to have incredible art experiences. But there's room for both. There's value in both. There's creativity in both. I want an arts kid to also get to play a sport if they want to, and vice versa.
Yeah. I want to know what your take is on High School Musical.
I have never seen it.
You haven't?
I haven't.
Do you get the premise?
I have a general sense of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dang it.
Really sorry. I know
No.
that Zac Efron's character's name is Troy.
Yeah.
That's about what I know. He's a basketball player, right?
Yeah. So
Okay.
so the story goes, it's a complete nuance what we're talking about
Okay.
here. Of he's playing basketball. His dad wants him to go play Division I basketball somewhere.
Okay.
And then enter this girl. And she and him get entangled, and he ends up wanting to stretch and to do the play, and then also trying to play basketball. And then there's this drama around it. and they made 3 movies out of it. But if you ever like, well, I have an hour and a half of my
Yeah.
life that I don't care about getting back. Go and watch it
Okay.
and text me later about it.
Okay.
It's a complete parallel, not
Yeah.
it's parallel to what we're talking
Yeah.
about of this. Sports has to be the thing, and the pressure of the dad and
Yeah.
mom. I mean, it's very,
Well, it's a trope.
yeah.
I mean, athletic dads who have this drive for their sons to go out and conquer the game
and the daughter
win.
and the
Yeah.
mom, and
Yeah.
then it's a complete But I mean, when I was what, 8?
Oh,
or
you're the
8 or 9,
perfect
10.
age for it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I was in that blossoming time
Yeah.
of like defining, into middle school where your friend groups kind of shift
Yep.
and combine, or so it was in the perfect time for my generation of my later millennial years. But
Yeah.
just kept coming up in the back of my mind as we're talking about the sports versus arts,
Yeah.
and what's more important. And in the movie, obviously they take the stance of it works out for both
Sure.
of them to
Sure.
happen, not without drama and
Yeah.
and some
Well,
love and
again, it would be a
romance.
short movie if it were just, yes, please go be
Gets
in the
part,
musical.
gets a D1.
Yeah.
Done.
Yes.
Does both parts, but
Kills it and moves on.
yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, it was interesting. I mean, I don't know if you could quite call it progressive, but there was
Well, I think it's
things of it.
important. I mean, I
Yeah.
think anytime we can highlight something that kind of bucks the trend.
Mm-hmm.
So you think of the opposite of that would be Friday Night Lights.
Totally. 100%.
So those boys were not thinking, gosh, can I get into choir?
Yeah.
Those boys were there to have
That's it.
football,
Yeah.
drink, and have sex. Play football, drink, and
Right.
have sex.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
In that order.
For sure.
And so that predicts or that displays one story, which is kind of the traditional story.
Yeah, dramatizes it to a point,
And
yeah.
you can say, well, High School Musical's lame. It might be, but it's at least giving you a different perspective.
Yeah.
And it's saying to a kid who loves basketball,
option,
but
yeah.
also wouldn't mind doing a musical. Yeah, you could maybe do both. I mean, if Zac Efron can do both, you can
He's
do
pretty
both.
cool, and all
He's
the girls
cool.
like that guy,
Yeah.
and then Gabriella, his
Yep.
female partner in that, was attractive, and
Yes.
she could sing, and she was super smart, and like,
Yep.
yeah, I mean, I think the dynamicness of it, I hate to call the movie dynamic and progressive, but yeah, it had a lot of the pieces, I think,
Yeah.
that now ironically are super cool. Like, I think all those things now are really cool. I mean, maybe it's just because of social media and in my age grouping of the volume of people that are producing content, but all these things that people thought were lame or dumb
Yep.
back then, we all watched them. Like we all watched them. Even like the Justin Bieber stuff now, how Justin Bieber was so cool.
Yep.
I listened to him when he was just
He
a
was not
child.
cool.
I thought he was
Yeah.
good back then, but
He
it
was.
wasn't cool to think Justin
Right.
Bieber is cool because all the girls
Not as
thought
a
he was
straight
cool.
boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, my son dated a girl who dragged him to the Justin Bieber movie. They were freshmen. And I remember him coming home and saying to me, he's actually pretty talented.
He's
But it was sort of
insanely
said under
talented.
his breath
For
because
sure.
it wasn't cool to like
Yeah.
him.
Insanely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he just played Coachella, and I don't know if you saw, did you see some
I-
social media clips
I
of
did
him on
see
his
it.
laptop, and like
Yes.
people either loved or hated it.
Yeah.
But highest paid act ever at Coachella, probably with the highest margins. I'd have to
Yeah, it'd be
assume as
really
well, too.
interesting to know, wouldn't it?
90.
Whatever. It's worked out well for Justin.
for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't know how athletic he is, but
I think he's a skateboarder, isn't
yeah,
he?
yeah, that's right. Yeah, he skateboarded. I
Yeah.
mean, like he's getting into golf. Like I think golf is
Oh, I
so
think
big
that's just
now.
a prerequisite once you
Yeah.
get close to 40.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how old he is, but he can't be too far from that, actually. Wow.
I think we're like the same age.
Okay.
I think he's like 32.
Okay.
Ish or so.
I have to fact find that post
yeah.
conversation.
Yeah, it does seem like that does creep in faster as you get to the older ages. Golf does become something that.
Well, I noticed the
comes in.
40 bags of golf clubs in your office.
Oh
sir.
yeah, there's just a couple.
I've never
Facebook
swung a club.
Marketplace. It's a very interesting experience because it's the exact opposite of what any other athleticism requires from you in a sport. Like the way you move your body to swing the club is like the exact opposite.
Mm.
It none of it makes sense. So, but
Well, like all sports, it looks easy and I'm sure is unbelievably
right.
difficult.
You watch
Yeah.
the tour pros and
Yeah.
they're hitting, and it's like, oh, it looks so easy. And it's
Yeah.
well, yeah.
How hard can it be?
5,000
Hit a ball.
hours every year of their life for
Yeah.
15 years. Of course, it's gonna look easy, right? But I think moving through, I think that this belief, right, in yourself obviously was something that arrived fully formed from birth, right? With
Yeah,
the
I
blue
think
eyes and
so.
the crazy red hair, and you maybe looking to start crawling around before life should have allowed that. Um, but somewhere along the way, right, being in front of people on a stage in a room, I think started teaching you something, and I want to stay with what that taught you because I think it's underneath everything that you do now. So you've spent over 40 years, so 4 decades in front of cameras, audiences,
I've spent
boardrooms,
over
5
5 decades.
decades.
Yes.
5 decades. What has that volume of experience taught you about people that you couldn't have learned any other way?
Um, I think maybe it's taught me that many people, I think, would love to have an experience like that, to have that level of attention, to have that opportunity. But somewhere along the way, and typically early on, somebody told them that that space was not for them. And so I think it's why you have audiences. I mean, to go back to the sports thing, some of why it's fun to watch somebody who's given 10,000 hours a year since they could move is because they can do something that, for whatever reason, you either believe you can't or somebody told you you can't do. And so I think it's a little voyeuristic for people because most people will tell you, I'd rather die than stand on stage. And I actually don't believe that's true. I believe it's the story they're telling themselves because most 3-year-olds, let's just go to any random wedding you've been to. Think about a 3-year-old on the dance floor.
Dancing around.
They're doing it. They don't care. They love it. They understand it. It's intrinsic to who they are because the very first experience we have in utero is rhythm. Our mother's heartbeat is the first experience that we have. And so we are, by nature, by evolution, by design, built to give into rhythm. But by the time you're our age, and I'm using that loosely because I'm way older than you, but by the time you're grown up, let's say,
Sure. Yeah.
most people won't dance. Well, that's not because they don't want to. It's because somewhere between 3 and adulthood, somebody made fun of them, somebody pointed out something that didn't work, they got hurt, they felt like they made a fool of themselves, whatever it was, and it closed that door and they're unwilling to open it. And so the joy of performing casually, professionally, however you think of it, is that's a little bit of a release for the audience too. It's cathartic to see someone else do something you will not allow yourself to do. So I think that's what I've learned about people is most people are boxed in and it's a box they've built themselves, or it's a box somebody built and they are holding on to it from the inside. They could walk out of it, but they don't or won't.
And for the people listening to this, Dayna, that maybe aren't born with what you have and have earned and practiced and experienced and failed and succeeded in, what are the ways that we can untrain or undo the self-inflicted or inflicted trauma or whatever we want to call that lack of release of our own ego to dance and have fun or just make a fool of ourselves or try something different that we maybe didn't think we could?
Show up. I mean, unless you are from a super religious sect that doesn't use electricity, you probably have a phone. You probably have watched a YouTube video, a TikTok video, an Instagram reel, a whatever. Make one. Here's the thing that I think is so important. Probably hardly anybody's going to see it anyway. There's 20 gabillion posts going out a minute to release the pressure of what will people think. They won't think anything because they're not going to watch it. I have hundreds of videos online that I have made. very few of them have been seen by more than 200 people. Okay, there's 8 billion people on the planet. That's, whatever that math is, it's not good.
Yeah.
So do it. Show up. See what it feels like. It's probably going to feel terrible. If someone said to me right now, just go stand on the free throw line and shoot a free throw, I would be in an instant full body sweat. I know what a free throw is. I even know how to do it. Please never make me do a free throw in front of anyone. I would be mortified. Like, you think about basketball games. I don't know if they still do this. I haven't been to a game in years, but they used to sell raffles and somebody's ticket would get called and you'd have to start like at the half line.
Yeah.
You could not, if someone had said to me, here's a roll of tickets and what you're going to win is big. I mean, when my son was a baby, we were poor. I needed money. I would have turned down that roll of tickets rather than risk looking like a fool throwing a free throw. That's insane. That's insane. Most people aren't looking. Most people are going to do it poorly because it's much harder to do than it looks like it is.
They know what they're doing. They're going to probably pick somebody that's not good at basketball and do it.
Right, because it's a random thing.
Yeah.
And even if everybody points and laughs in the minute, within 30 seconds, the next person has done something that everybody's focus has gone to. Just do it. Just do it. And if you can't do it on YouTube, then do it in a mirror. Or talk to a baby. I mean, just find a place to do it. Yeah. You're already doing silly stuff all the time. Do you have a pet in your life? I can promise you're talking in some sort of crazy voice all the time.
For sure.
And if you don't think that that's not performance, you're not thinking clearly. We're performing all the time. So stop and reflect on where am I doing it? Who's commenting on it? Chances are good it's nobody. And take it one step further. If you want to. And if you don't, that's okay.
Yeah. And you've had this line of just do it, even lightly poking at yourself of shooting a free throw, which seemingly is maybe less endangering than jumping on stage, right? Maybe
not to me, Jay. Not to me. I'm thinking about the Wahpeton High School gymnasium.
You've got a place to take us there. Like
there's 1,000 people in that gymnasium. I know some of them because that's where I grew up. For $12 million, I am not standing at that free throw line. My dad's the basketball coach at that point in my life. He was kind of anti-girls sports at the time. He's come a long, long way. No way am I going to mortify myself, mortify my brothers. I mean, that is not going to happen. Yeah. I will leave the gym before I'll do that. So I get that it's not always just just do it. There's all kinds of stuff I won't do. Yeah. But I would argue that to be creative is your birthright. To speak with some clarity and some confidence is kind of your obligation. You have something to say, and you just don't know who needs to hear it. And the reason that I know that's true is because when my husband and I were so open around his addiction and recovery and the way we rebuilt our marriage, there was a lot at stake to share that story. Almost nobody knew that when we did it 6 years ago. And I can tell you, I could give you names of people whose lives we've saved, and then there would be countless others. Our story's not even that unique. It's that we were willing to be vulnerable and to say something. It opened a door for other people. Yeah. Everybody's got some kind of story to share, and everybody needs to hear some kind of story.
Yeah. I thinking through that, you took it to obviously a much more personal and meaningful spot. I think that's naturally where I find myself in more of a follower's position when listening, watching, learning from different people. I think about going back to the wedding scenario of the 3-year-old or the kids that are just dancing, they just love it, right?
Yeah.
And then you maybe even see a friend or an adult or parent that's dancing, that's terrible.
Yep.
And it almost makes you cringe, you know. And I get secondhand embarrassment.
Me too.
But then they just do it for just a couple seconds longer.
Yes.
And people start to come out.
Yes.
You are now feeling like I should get out there.
Yes.
And now they're this leader. And I think what you just talked about was much more meaningful in that earned confidence factor and leading from the front. But I think maybe from what I've learned or heard from you so far is that's the difference maker, that you maybe aren't comfortable doing those things in the moment. Externally, though, viewers might look at that as, wow, they've got it all together and they're uncomfortable. But I think maybe that's somewhat of that exception of people's perspective isn't always what's going on inside, maybe.
Almost never. I mean, the stories we tell ourselves are almost always negative. I can't dance. I look like a fool. I'm not cool. I don't know what to do. What should I do with my hands? Do I look super white? I mean, whatever goes through your head, we all, those of us who live in that world, all ask those questions. Again, certain that what's happening is, if we have the audacity to go out onto the dance floor, that everybody else is secretly side watching us. They're not. A, they're telling themselves the same stories you are. And B, if they aren't, it's because they're enjoying it. I want to go back to something you said, though, that I think is really important. If you can stay with it just a few seconds longer. I mean, if you and I stood up right now and danced, which I'm not advocating for, I would feel like a fool. I mean, I'm not a comfortable dancer.
Yeah.
But you're right. If we put music on and we just pushed through, we would fall into a place where it became fun, and maybe your team would come and join us, and we would all know that, like, nobody's hiring us as their backup dancers. That's not the purpose of dancing,
right.
For most of us.
Not this time either. Never know. Maybe.
Well, I mean, I don't want to
Social
say
media's
never,
weird.
but
Yeah.
probably not.
Probably not.
But the purpose is joy. The purpose is because we can move our bodies. The purpose is because we are built to embody rhythm and art and creativity and joy and laughter and all of that. And when you deny yourself that because you're sure what other people are going to say, really all you're doing is shortchanging yourself. Now I feel kind of like Mike Brady and the Brady Bunch giving these sort of weird platitudes, but it's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Nobody else cares that you didn't dance. You're the one who missed out.
For sure. And I think back to now, going out and doing these things, and Kayla was there, but we were just working with a nonprofit client in town, and executive director and founder of it, a little over 15 years, I think now. And I'd asked her a question of, how do you have such conviction in what you're creating this platform to help underserved youth and just confidence in what you're talking about, just me just personally selfishly trying to learn.
Yeah.
And she just kind of goes, well, Jay, it kind of just comes with gray hair over time. So my question, right, for you to help viewers, whether it's 2 people or 200 or 2,000 or whatever that watches this.
Let's go with 2 million. This could be
2 million.
This could be the podcast that launches us both.
That does it. What can people that aren't earning their gray hair do at 15 or 25 or 35 to hang on for a few seconds longer, or even just start, right? That's probably the bigger thing. They're probably not even out on the dance floor yet. They're probably just sitting there with their drink or cake or whatever it is at a wedding. So what would you recommend somebody do in that time to make that leap, or maybe it comes before that?
Stop caring. Stop being certain that everybody's paying attention to you. Nobody is paying attention to you. Everybody is as self-consumed as you are. And that's really freeing. When I was initially at the Arts Partnership, probably the first 7 years I was there, I took almost no vacation time. I felt like everything that happened had to happen on my back. And that wasn't entirely untrue, because even though it was an existing organization, I had an identity to build. But then after my husband got sober, we started traveling more. and I started being gone an appropriate amount of time. And guess what? The organization did just fine. And in some instances, it did better because I'm kind of distracting. So what I learned from that is you're just not that important.
Yeah.
You have a role to play, you have a job to do, you have a life to live. But if you think, I'd love to try fill in the blank, but what will someone else say? Give yourself the freeing understanding of probably nobody's going to say anything, which is hard if you're creating content you want people to watch. But it means, what are you out to try it? What are you out? And okay, so let's go worst case scenario. You post something on YouTube, and the first comment you get is, you're ugly, you're fat, you're terrible, you should die. I mean, people say terrible things.
Totally.
Terrible things.
Totally.
Okay. Unless you believe that what they're saying to you is a mandate you must follow through with, then who cares? That's on them. You get to captain your own ship, so captain the damn ship. Why would you give up that role to unnamed, unknown people who chances are very good aren't going to do anything with your ship?
For sure.
Captain your own damn ship.
Yeah.
And see where it takes you.
Yeah. Hearing you say all these things is I think a reiteration and nothing new of what I've known. I think as you're talking, innately I'm thinking of all the things of what I should be doing or wish I'd be doing or...
Okay, so tell me one.
Well...
Let's flip the table, Jay.
So one little known fact is I got like never formal, but just like, I like loved to like just like dance in like high school.
Okay.
And there was like some dance trends like Dougieing, like
Okay,
jerking, whatever,
yeah.
back in the day. And I get that feeling of like there was this one video that's I think it's on YouTube somewhere. But we in my senior year of high school, they would have like the announcement show that students would run.
Yeah.
And I think it played between like second period or something like that,
Okay.
or maybe first and second. And they'd always have, about a 5-minute interlude. As class gets out, people pass through.
Yeah.
Our commons in our high school was quite extravagant. So I went to Minnetonka High School,
Oh,
where
yeah.
graduating class was like 900.
Yeah.
So it's almost 3,000 students or
Okay.
over 3,000 students, and one day they played this song that I knew well and I danced to, and I just remember I was dance battling these people that I'd never met, and it was like the whole comments from like one end of the school to the other, and then like the cross bridge above it was full, and it was just like everyone was like watching, and like I didn't care. I mean, obviously I wanted to win the dance battle, but
Yeah.
just I think the entertaining part of it was where my like positive emotions came from it. I think obviously like being paid attention to probably had some of it, but I think just the entertainment factor of like, oh, this was adding to someone's life in like a funny way, and I didn't take it too seriously, but enjoyed that part of it.
Yeah.
And then I danced in like our senior year talent show, which was interesting. That video is online somewhere.
People are now frantically searching your name on YouTube.
I did get second place in it.
Okay.
The guy that won, James Farrow, he went to like Virginia Tech or something like that to play football, and then he's been on a couple of like the random singing shows. Like
Oh, wow.
I think like DJ Khaled was judging one of them or something.
Okay.
Or actually, I think Diddy was judging the last one he was on. Or
Well,
something.
I mean, we
But-
don't know everything about everyone.
Right, but yeah, no, my IB. So my senior year, I took IB Business Management. Freshman year, I knew what marketing. This intro to marketing class I took, I was like, business is it. Like,
Okay.
I'm going to do something in business. I knew that from the get, but that was like the first thing I ever found interesting in school, to be honest. And my senior year project in that IB Business Management class was opening up like this dance studio. So I
Yeah.
had to like research land and like make a plan for it. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Not many people
So-
maybe know that.
So how does that relate to what you should be doing today?
I think just taking like dance classes, just like for
Okay.
fun,
Yeah.
you know. I
There are a number of dance studios in this town.
for sure. And I've lightly been on like the Facebook,
Yeah.
Facebook groups of like Facebook, Fargo, Moorhead, West Fargo, just
Yeah.
random questions people ask, and
Yeah.
maybe the internet knows me and is feeding me some of those question forum groupings of, are there any dance classes going on this week, whatever. And I've kind of have it on like my notes of like, I should just go, but I don't know anybody there, and they're probably gonna people there probably all are in groups, and like I'm not gonna know anybody there, and so
yeah, but
that's all those things I'm thinking about, right?
Yeah,
as you're talking about, just do the thing.
Yeah.
'Cause who gives a
Because
shit?
who cares?
Yeah.
And dance class is not a place to chat.
Yeah.
So who cares if you don't know anyone? That's like saying,
Right.
well, I'm a real loud extrovert. I'm going to just spend all my time at the library. Well, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
If you want to meet people, probably a formal dance class isn't a great place to start. But if you want to dance, it's the
Right.
perfect place to start because you'll talk a little before, you might talk a little after, but in the middle, you're just working.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that we did at the Arts Partnership when COVID hit is we created this thing called Tappy Hour on Fridays, and I went and worked
Tappy
with
Hour.
different leaders. And so Matt Gasper from FM Ballet and Gasper Dance and I did a live bar class with ballet. Okay, I have taken about 8 minutes of ballet in my life. And I loved it, and it was hard, and let me say this, no one reached out and was like, oh my gosh, you missed your calling. The way your knees are buckling, it's just, you were clearly the Misty Copeland of the Midwest. No, that's not why I did it. And it was fantastic, and I loved it. And so what if you go and everybody's already in a clique, and you walk in and it's that terrible thing of like immediate silence.
And that's my fear. That's literally what I was thinking
Okay,
about
so
as you were talking
worst
about
case scenario, that's what happens. And then someone
For
goes,
sure.
who let that guy in? Okay, who cares? They're paying for the class. You're paying for the class. They're not on their way to being professional dancers.
For sure.
They live in Fargo or Moorhead.
Yeah, it's a
So,
beginner
yeah,
line dancing
yes,
thing at
it's-
Cowboy Jacks or something.
Yes, or even if it's a beginner formal dance class with a dance company, it's adult dance. I mean,
we
this-
clearly missed our calling long ago.
Yes, yes.
If we're all in this class together.
But here's what I will tell you. I don't know if you ever watch Graham Norton, but when I want to really use my time poorly, I watch this. He's Irish, but it's an English talk show called The Graham Norton Show.
Okay.
And Ryan Reynolds has been on many times, but this particular one, Graham Norton pulls up a recording of Ryan Reynolds
Back in
dancing
the-
when he's like
yeah.
10 or 11 years old.
Yeah.
Every time I watch that, because I've seen it more than once, all I can think is if I were Ryan Reynolds, I would want to kill myself on that stage.
It's him and all the girls around
Yes.
him, right? And
Yes,
he's
and he's
getting down
wearing,
to,
like, Zubas and- yes.
Yes.
So-
he was getting down in that though.
He sure was.
He was getting down in that.
And you said earlier that you have second something embarrassment.
Yeah, at times, right?
So, I mean,
internalized.
Yes,
obviously.
of course. I watched that, and I'm kind of embarrassed for him.
him.
Guess what? It served him pretty damn well.
For sure.
I mean, it got him on the Mickey Mouse Club. The Mickey Mouse Club launched him to this, to this,
Yeah.
to this. I think he was on the Mickey Mouse Club. I could be wrong about that.
So-
Doesn't matter.
something like some
It got him
trajectory,
somewhere.
yeah.
Okay. What is there to be embarrassed about? He was a kid who took dance classes.
He was good.
They had spring recital.
Yeah.
Somebody, probably his mom, recorded it. It got out. There it is.
Yeah.
If Ryan Reynolds can bear the embarrassment
For sure.
of himself dancing to MC Hammer, I
Yeah,
think,
right.
then we can all take and try something too.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. The excuses we make to not risk feeling or looking stupid keep us from living as big a life as we could. And that is a shame. We get one go around. Even if you believe that we get to come back time and time again, we never come back like this.
Right.
We will never be this again.
Yeah.
So if you want to dance, get thee to a dance studio, I say, paraphrasing Hamlet just a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll share one more personal thing.
Okay.
Before we go back to you, Dayna.
That's great. I feel we've had a lot of me, so this is good.
Back to the podcast about you. I remember when I was in middle school and we had choir class that we had to
Yeah.
take. Undebatably, the worst possible thing you could have made me do
Okay.
was singing.
True for many junior high
Just
boys.
just voice, just confidence
Yeah.
overall, I think has always been the highest tier, the level of determining factors of my
Okay. The
hate.
swirl of shame.
Yeah,
Yep.
right. And just couldn't sing. Always had a really great range.
Okay.
I don't know if it's just like an Asian person thing with our dialect and how like,
Oh, I don't either.
'cause I mean, I took Chinese and I'm Korean, but just the way that you have to like hyphenate these tones and like you could say like ni hao, but then you could fluctuate down or up and it means a completely different thing. So that might be, I mean, I don't know. I've seen a lot of like videos of, I'm gonna get the race wrong, but like Thailand or I don't know, somewhere over there where like they all sing karaoke or there's a bunch of videos of them singing karaoke and they're all like fucking Celine Dion. And there's comments of like karaoke is like Thailand's national sport or something like
Well,
that.
I will say it's huge in Japan.
Yeah.
Huge, huge, huge in Japan.
It's like maybe
Yeah.
there's something to that of
Maybe.
like how difficult
Or
it is
maybe,
to speak.
maybe it's also just a cultural thing of, well, of course I can
Totally.
sing.
Yeah, we all just
mean,
do it forever. It's
yeah.
just it's cool.
Like how Americans think, of course I can be an entrepreneur. It's
Yeah.
built into our
Totally.
I would say country's DNA.
Yeah.
So maybe
100%.
it's just a thing there.
A lot more people sing, a lot more people post about it, more confident.
Yeah.
But anyways, that was always been my worst.
Okay.
Like never done karaoke. Never will like just sing in a car. Like, even with people I'm comfortable around with, just would never do it.
Okay.
And there's been no trauma around it. I just hate
Yeah,
it.
okay.
Never good at it. And I think I also have a predisposition of just hating things I'm not amazing at.
Yeah.
And obviously I'm
Those of us who
realizing
take ourselves too seriously often do.
for sure.
Yeah. Looking foolish is hard.
Totally embody that. But I've been taking singing lessons for like the last like 2 years.
Why?
You know who Jessica Vines is, right?
Yeah.
So she's out in LA now.
Yeah.
But I was asking her like, who could I take singing lessons from in town? Like, I've always hated it. It was kind of just like maybe like a high performance thing for me to
Okay.
like practice and just do something that's like
Some people jump off of
just
telephone
terrible.
poles and you do this.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just deeply me.
Humiliating.
Yeah, just humiliating myself for an hour every Monday at
paying for
5:30. Yeah, and paying for it. But yeah, I've been doing Zoom lessons with her for the last like 2 years. I still have a great range. I don't know how many octaves I have in my range, but she says it's very high. And I've gotten a lot better.
Yes.
I think I'm still pretty stressed and tense when I'm in the lessons, which
Yeah.
which crowds my breath control, which
Well, I was
makes
going to say,
everything
it makes
terrible.
your voice box can't do what it needs to do
Yeah.
if you're holding on for dear
and
life.
the breath control between is
Yeah.
terrible. Timing's terrible, but yeah, it's been interesting that there's still not quite a comfortability of it, and it's probably more of the taking myself too seriously, and just like, Jessica's like, we've had these lessons for like 2 years, Jay. I don't care if your warm-ups don't sound good.
Yep.
And I'm like, why do I still care? Right. So there's probably some deeper work
There's,
inside to
there's
be done.
definitely deeper work. But here's what I would say to you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to stop doing lessons. But you have to stop letting that be the only place you do it. And you have to go do karaoke. And it will be brutal.
Well, I've
It
done
will be brutal for you.
I've done it once, but with a group of people.
Yeah. You don't have to show up all by yourself.
But solo's different, though. I think that's the end goal.
Oh, I see what you've sung it with a group. I see.
Like
Okay.
with 3 other like that, because that's fine.
Yeah.
Because then it's not just me.
Yeah.
Right. Like then it's versus if it's just me.
Yep.
And then so I think that was our original goal. I was like, she was like, well, what do you want to accomplish out of singing? Like I've never even thought you liked singing. I'm like, oh, I don't. This is like our first lesson together.
Yeah.
And I didn't know her a couple of years before that.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, I freaking hate this. This is like the worst thing. She's like, then why are you here?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know. I just want to do something that I hate and just some personal growth. I know I need to like take myself less seriously. And this is maybe a good step. I don't know. And she's like, well, like, what do you want out of it then? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I have watched people sing karaoke in movies and been like, hell no. And it's like, that maybe is like our finish line of like, And she's told me, she's like, you have like a nice voice. Like people at karaoke would not think you had a bad voice.
Yeah.
You're not going to make it on The Voice,
Right.
but you're not going to be like, oh, this person's terrible. Be
Right.
Like,
You're
oh,
not going to get booed.
they're gonna make, oh, this is like a good karaoke thing at Thursday at Dempsey's, you know. And
Yes.
I'm like, are you sure? She's like, yes. And I'm like, I don't think so.
You have to do it, Jay.
Yeah.
You
So,
have to do it.
But yeah,
I mean, now you've put it out into the world. You have to do it.
Noah just cut this part.
Keep it,
no one
Noah.
will see this
Keep
part.
it, Noah. No, you have to do it, because how can you possibly ever know the extraordinary thrill of accomplishing it if you
For sure.
never let yourself try it?
For sure.
What you aren't prepared for, because you're only imagining the car wreck worst case scenario. What
For
you
sure.
aren't
Always.
imagining is getting through it and thinking, okay, I
Wow.
didn't hate that.
And nobody really gave a shit.
Or people enjoying it, or
For
you
sure.
enjoy. I mean,
Yeah, right,
worst
right.
case scenario really is, that was okay. I lived.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if that's the bar of the worst, then everything else is better than that. You have
Totally.
no idea what potential joy is waiting for you to finish the last note. What would be your go-to song?
I mean, we work on a song for about maybe like a month and a half or so. The last song. I think it's funny because just visually, if you look at me and then me singing the song, it's hilarious.
Okay.
I think just on paper. But Your Man by Josh Turner.
Oh, I don't know it.
I'll play it quick.
Okay.
You'll recognize it
Okay.
the second you hear. Oh,
Okay.
maybe, I don't know. It's a very deep country song.
Oh, country. Okay. Oh, I do know this
Yeah.
song. Okay. All right.
And it's like really like it's pretty low, which I think is just kind of funny coming from
Yeah.
just visually
Yes.
Asian guy
Yeah, I
singing
mean,
that country of a song. I
Yep.
think is hilarious, but I mean it fits well in my range.
Name your time and place, Jay. I'm there to cheer till my voice falls out.
Gosh, I think I also should limit the drinks that I have beforehand, so it's a
Absolutely.
little more fair go at it. That
And also so that you can honestly say, this is how it felt.
right, couple.
You do what you want in the drinking department, but don't be drunk when you do it,
For
because you
sure.
won't be able to reflect on it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I only play therapist sometimes in commercials on TV, so I'm clearly not one in real
No.
life.
I'm
But
here for it.
there is something that's keeping you from whatever else is meant for you. However you want to think about that. Because by saying no to this, who knows what else you're saying no to?
For sure. Absolutely.
I would like to see this in place before the end of summer. Summer is a good time to do it.
It is. It is a lot more people out, more people in the crowd, which actually makes
Yeah.
it sound less.
We'll do a follow-up conversation with this audience where I will interview Jay and we'll learn about everything he uncovered and how extraordinary his life became once I bullied him
if I'm
into
still alive after
karaoke.
All right. Well, moving back to Dayna now, after we can cut out the last
Nope.
15,
I'm going to be
20
so sad
minutes
if that
of
doesn't
it.
make it.
It's on the list. It's out there now. I've
Good.
committed to it. Okay. I think so. Moving into this knowledge, I think that we just talked about, of the knowledge earned by standing in front of a crowd of people, over and over again, which I probably won't be doing over and over again, but eventually something, I think this earned knowledge is something that you eventually want to give away or train or coach or guide people on. And I think the way that you think about teaching presence is different from almost everything else I've heard on the topic. So you've said, not verbatim, but you said that if a leader shows up dull, almost nothing they say is going to land.
Right.
But I'm curious, what do you actually believe is at stake when that happens?
Everything. So if you lead a business, I believe the success of your business is at stake. I believe the longevity of your team is at stake. I believe your culture inside your corporation is at stake. I believe your mission, vision, values, all of that is at stake. And if you are a speaker, let's say you're a keynote speaker, then I believe your ability to get booked is at stake. I believe your ability to say anything that matters is at stake. Why in the world would you show up and be dull? There's a lot of dull in life. Why would you be dull? It just doesn't make sense to me. And if you're a leader and you're not thinking about your presence, then you're not doing it right, in my opinion. Most people show up on stage pretty poorly because we don't teach it, because we don't value it. And we say things like, well, you'll learn leadership skills again in sports. Okay, that's true. Whoever's making the calls on a field, a pitch, a court, whatever you want to call it, they're leading. But if you're not thinking about how it's being received, if you're not thinking about the ways that everybody is experiencing it, if you're not thinking about how you're sharing it, then really all you're doing is just talking. And that's just not successful. It just isn't.
Yeah. And you already pointed out, this cost. But what do you think internally is the real cost for leaders that don't put in the work around showing up a little brighter than being
I
dull?
think they probably don't know it, but I think they are panic-stricken that they're going to get called out or that they're going to be let go and seen as ineffective. And so what often happens is if you are afraid of being called a fraud, which many people in leadership have that imposter syndrome anyway, what you do if you don't know anything different is you double down on, well, I need my slides to be better, or I need to know my talk better, or I need to have more statistics, or my team needs to give me more content.
Yeah.
Nobody gives a hoot about your goddamn slides. I mean, slides, are you kidding me? I'm not saying they don't have value. I'm saying that if you're starting from my slides are awesome, you have already lost. Just send me the slide deck and save me the burden of watching you kill the slide deck. Just send it to me and then I'll ignore that, which is what most people are going to do even when you're on stage. If you don't figure out how to make what you have to say matter, and more importantly, if you don't figure out why your audience is a vital piece of what you're doing on that stage. It is a dialogue and not a monologue. And way too many people view standing up in front of others as this is my opportunity to talk at you. That's a yawn. Talk with me. Give me the opportunity to be with you in that space, even if I never say a word. It's not always about literally inviting the audience to speak. It's about inviting the audience to create the dynamic that you want to create so that when you're done, they go, wow. And they're thinking about it later that day and the next week, and they're taking action on it. And now all of a sudden you've got team members who are excited to be working under this vision, and you've got people who were in the room who care about what you said and are practicing it for themselves.
There seems like a very obvious relation to this front of house as the front of house was to, back in your performative days as you were younger, learning these things. And what were some of those things that you had learned that now obviously translate to the way that you help people show up to be less dull in the way that they communicate?
Well, it's really interesting because I didn't learn this stuff in an overt way. What I learned is how it felt. So I tell this story of a musical that we did one summer when I was doing Straw Hat Players, which is this incredibly intense, 8-week program where you do 5 shows. And so it is a slog. and you put a show up in about 2 weeks. And we were doing this musical called Quilters, which is a 7-woman, 7-part musical. So really hard, and nobody to lean on. You just got to have all your own stuff in place. Plus, I don't know, 30 scenes. So you're playing all these different characters. And it was berserk. Really one of the hardest things I've ever done. And the rehearsal process was horrific. We hated every minute of it. It was just, there was no joy, none, because it was so hard. And we got to opening night, and we're all grumbling backstage, and got to get through it, and whatever. And so we get out, and we're in the Hanson Theater, and it's sold out. So there's about 900 audience members. And within seconds, I felt the energy. I felt a shift. I felt like the audience was leaning in and that they were with us. And that just kept growing and growing. So we get to intermission, and I mean, now we're just frantically trying to remember the second act, and there's still all this stress and pressure. And we get to the last note of the last song, and it's this big moment where we're all standing in a line and we're holding hands, and our hands go up, and that's it. And the audience immediately burst to their feet. And the energy coming off of them kind of pushed us backwards. And I have never, I mean, that was a lot of math ago, 30 something years ago. And I have never forgotten it. I can feel that moment right now, like I just did it last night. That is an audience that's invited to participate, that's invited to bring their presence, their energy, their emotional intelligence, their questions, their experiences. They were invited to come and be part of it. And so that ovation was as much for their experience as our performance. That can happen one person to a room. I've had that happen. It is extraordinary. That is why you have to go do karaoke, because you might get that moment and there is nothing else like it. There is no other feeling. I don't know. I guess if you win the Super Bowl, maybe it feels that way. I don't know.
People are still leading in. Same concept.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, so there are other experiences, but it's because, I mean, again, if we just want to go down the sports path, which I guess I must, think about being in a live stadium during a sporting event. There's nothing like it. I mean, the arts can't compete with that.
Sure.
If I'm sitting in England at an English football game and there's 25 or 40,000 people losing their mind.
Right.
That's incredible.
90 minutes. Yeah.
That's an incredible experience.
Right.
Because I'm not on that pitch, but I am with those players, and it feels like they're with me. It's why if you watch a game and the team that's been behind scores a goal, the player always goes to the audience and tries to pump them up because it's momentum. A group mutual experience. The same thing is true when you're speaking, and that can be true if it's one-to-one, one-to-many. If I am here and I'm not bringing anything to the table and I'm not creating space for you to engage with me, I'm just talking at you, this is a long 3 hours.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I mean,
there's been times
nobody wants to listen to that conversation.
Yeah. And I feel that real quick.
Yes, of course you do. So that's what's at stake.
Yeah.
Is the human to human connection and the human to human assistance. Once I felt that audience's attention, suddenly I hated that musical less, and every minute longer it went, the more I fell in love with it because it turned the tide for me. And the same has been true for me on stage. I gave a talk at a Lady Boss event that is the reason I left the arts partnership and am doing what I'm doing. 2019, that talk was so powerful. That exchange of energy between about 100 women and me was so singular that it took me 4 years to figure out how to leave. But from that moment on, I was making my way out the door because I was chasing that feeling.
Yeah, that concept or that feeling of football game is, we always had this during our football homecoming games in high school, obviously, we would be in cross country season in the fall, but we would find some crappy team to play for our homecoming games. We just
Of
kick
course.
the shit out of them.
Yes, because you don't want to lose
On the
homecoming.
homecoming,
Yeah.
right? But then
Yeah,
we would also invite their team, their track or cross country team, and we would run a mile at halftime in front of everybody.
Okay.
Which was like, for us, cross country and track. Well, track was way cooler than cross country. I'll be honest. The weirdo cross country people. This
Yeah.
was like our Super Bowl.
Yeah,
you know,
of
like we
course.
were the halftime.
Yep.
Obviously, everyone wants to see us win because it's them
Yep.
versus or
Yep.
us versus them. So I mean that experience obviously was I think fun or funny in nature. I mean we kicked the shit out of these people too. I mean we were all like our class was probably one of the top 3 or so like in history. I was always number 7 on the team. It was varsity was top 7. I'm like, I'm gonna be right here.
Yeah.
I don't score. I don't matter, but I'm hanging out with my friends.
Yeah.
I get to go do the varsity things. But I think going back to what you had said of in that first few moments of where you could feel and sense and believe and see the crowd leaning into you is something that I get a ton of energy off of. You know,
It's
and
extraordinary.
this is extraordinarily high because you're an extremely blessed, driven, earned, and experienced person in conversation. I think in meetings that I have, whether it's small groupings or an audience, I've gotten better at not maybe needing as much of that feedback. And honestly, presenting to high school kids helped me a lot.
Oh, man.
They're
They're tough.
Some kids sleeping,
Yeah.
some kids on the
Couldn't
phone,
care less.
some
Yeah.
kids on FaceTime or something, and those were all great practices for me.
Yep.
But what would you tell somebody that needs to be less dull and wants to be less dull when they show up in meetings or in a leadership position that isn't quite there yet, right? As I think the disparity of that performance for you 30 some years ago to maybe where they're at, and what are those steps, tips, tricks? What are those things that you'd say to them to get them to that
So
spot?
I think it's threefold. I think it's to humanize yourself, humanize your audience, humanize your message. So the humanizing yourself is primarily pre-work, but there's certainly work to be done in front of people as well. But it's about breathing. It's about thinking through vocal placement. I always say to people, this is not my natural voice. This is the voice I built. My junior year of college, I realized I did not love my speaking voice. And so I went to my theater director and I said, all right, I was on the quarter system. I said, this quarter, I'm not going to work on acting. I'm just going to work on replacing my voice. And so I did. It's doable. So if you talk like this, it's harder to take you seriously because that's pretty bad.
Yeah.
This is a much more pleasing, this voice gets me money. That other voice does not, nobody's paying for that voice.
yeah.
I mean, that wasn't my voice, but, so it's about breathing deeply and intentionally. I always say, if you watch a baby sleep, their stomachs go up and down. As the diaphragm pushes out, their tummies go up and collapse. If you ask a group of kindergartners to take a deep breath, they go as if their lungs live in their shoulders. Your lungs don't live in your shoulders. Your lungs are in the same place they were as a baby. You want to breathe out. So the deeper you breathe, the more command of your voice you have. You commented on it in your voice
I've
lessons.
learned that a lot.
That
Yep.
you are working
It's
on.
this versus up in the
Yes,
chest, which is different as
This
an
gives
athlete.
you
Yeah.
nothing. This is hyperventilating. This is control. It's about thinking through, what kind of space am I going to be in and how am I going to use the space? If somebody just shows up and walks into a space where they're presenting, let's say even just to 10 people, if somebody rented your conference room and I knew the stakes were high, you better believe I would be on the phone, or I would come visit, or I would do something to see that space, to hear, what does my voice sound like in this? How loud do I need to be? What's the lighting? Am I going to be able to comfortably see everybody? Are we sitting in rows? Are we sitting horizontally, vertically? I mean, what does this look like? You want to think through all of that so that you're not thrown. You want to think through what you're going to wear. If you are not a woman who wears high heels, Guess what is not a good idea if you're going to stand up in front of people? Don't wear high heels that day. Figure out what you're comfortable in. If this is what makes you feel most confident, probably don't get a 3-piece suit unless there's a real reason, and then practice like hell in that 3-piece suit.
Yeah.
So you're breathing, imagine the space or get in the space if you can. Figure out where's your eye contact. I was just with MSUM honor students the other night, and I asked them what they knew about eye contact in terms of presenting. And they had some really interesting rules they had learned somewhere.
Yeah, tell me about
One
those.
was only look at eyebrows, never look at eyes. Okay, that's weird. I mean, at least it's an eye approximation, but
Floating.
yeah, but weird. One was never look at anybody, just look right above them. Okay, super weird. One said, pick one person and just look at them. Also super weird. You look like a serial killer. So think about, okay, I'm going to make some eye contact with you, and then I'm going to reach out and I'm going to connect with this side, and then I'm going to make a point, and as I'm making that point, I'm speaking over here. I mean, it's about being intentional, and if you're not comfortable with it, then it's about blocking it. It's about looking at your script and saying, all right, when I say this line, I'm going to move 4 steps to the left, and I'm going to look at those people as I make this point. You're doing all of this to signal to your audience that something's changing, that something matters in a different way, and you're being inclusive. If the only person who gets any of my attention as the speaker is the person who's directly in front of me, everybody else feels like, why am I here?
Right.
So you have to be intentional if it is not something you're comfortable with. And you have to literally say, move left, look left. Move center, look center. Move, and you do that for a while because practice makes better. And then you get it out of your head and you practice it. If you have to talk to a wall, if you have to talk to a mirror, if you record yourself, you get it out of your head because thinking is not the same as doing. I was in a spin class today and we had a new routine. And the instructor got to the end of class and she said, whew, that was a lot easier to think about than to lead. And I thought I was very glad she felt that way too, because it was a brutal class. But you can't think your way to performance. You have to practice your way to performance. So that's some things to do to humanize yourself. Humanizing your audience, again, is thinking about who are they? What do they need? What are they bringing to the room? Why are they there? Are they there by choice or because it's mandatory? Because that's a different audience. Are they there because you are providing drink tickets and so you're just the gap between leaving work and your 2 stupid bad glasses of Chardonnay? Are they there because they want to be there? Did they pay? Did their employer pay? Are they there because their raise is dependent on you? I mean, whoever it is. And if you don't have any idea who's in the room, then create some imaginary people. Last fall, I gave a talk to a supervisors conference, social worker supervisors. I didn't know one person in the room. I think there were about 250 people. Okay, I imagined, what do I know about supervisors? And what do I know about social workers? These are people who care about other people. They're not driven by money. They're under-resourced. They're tired. Their work is hard. They're dealing with, all these complex issues. Okay, well, you better believe that the way I talked to that audience was very different than the way I would talk to a group of CEOs who are sitting in great financial shape, presumably,
Right,
So I might give the exact same talk, but I've considered who my audience is. And if I don't do that and I show up to social workers the way I show up to 7-figure CEOs, how long do you suppose the social workers are going to give me any time and space? About a minute and a half. So you have to think through that and what they need, what they can share with you, and why that matters. And then you get to your message. It's not that it doesn't matter. Of course it matters. Because if it didn't matter, you would just stand up and talk off the cuff, and 99% of people are terrible at that. And if you're not comfortable in front of people anyway, that is not the time to go full improv. So you want to prepare what you're going to say. But again, who is it for? What do they really need to know? Now is not the time to fill your PowerPoint with 10,000 words, PowerPoint page. And it's not a time to abdicate your authority to facts and statistics, to dull, boring information, to content that feels very legal. This is the time to tell stories that humanize your message. And if you can't do those three things, you're not showing up as powerfully as you can or should. And all of that is teachable, which means it's all learnable.
Thinking about all of these pieces and some things that I've internalized, and I think things that I've learned about how to talk in front of people and maybe learned through feedback. But give me a time, maybe somewhat recently, that you were put into, and it could be low or high stakes, that you maybe were underprepared to speak and give us that environment and then how you navigated that experience.
So I said earlier that in 2019, I gave this talk, which really changed everything. I was invited to come back to that same group to a regional conference in 2022. So I had written a newish talk that I had given once before, but this was really the first time it was going to be truly up on its feet. And it was my story. And I could not memorize it. My husband probably listened to it. I don't know. Realistically, he probably heard me struggle through it 40 times. It was brutal. And he finally said to me, I'm so confused. This is your experience. What is going on? And I didn't know. Okay, so this is March of 2022. I am the opening keynote of this 2-day summit. I get up and I've got notes galore on the PowerPoint presenter slides. So I'm talking to the audience, but really I'm doing a lot of this. And I'm looking down at the comfort screen or whatever it's called. And out of the gate, it was a bust. It felt so wrong. I would have loved to have just said, you know what? Let's just wrap it up and I'm just going to step out. And I could not figure out what was going on. And then I didn't really give that talk again for three and a half years. I kind of didn't talk again publicly in any formal way. So here's what I know now. I made that talk all about me. I need to be perfect. I need to be memorized. These slides need to say everything I need them to say. All of that needs to be there. I'm good enough that I can read and go back and forth, and that's engaging, and I need to look amazing. I never considered the audience. I never stopped to think about who's going to be in the room. What do they need from this talk? It's actually a great talk. It's super universal. It's my very specific story applied to this universal message that always lands well when I don't think about how will I walk off and people will go, you were amazing. It's not about you being amazing. It's about it being amazing. And it's about that made me feel like this as an audience member. And in forgetting that, in performing only for myself, I utterly failed. So it's just a huge seismic shift that simply asks you to remember that it's not about you, that people are paying attention to themselves, and that if you can be in service to them, they're still not going to pay 100% attention to you, but they'll hopefully glean at least the major pieces you're trying to convey. If you can be in service to them, they will feel it. They will give something back to you, which will just be this beautiful loop of continuing exchange of energy. Everybody comes out better in that instance.
Yeah. And I think that's a huge thing too, that I think I've learned lightly in some of, I mean, I have not spoken that often or much or well. But that is, I think, the insurmountable piece of what we do is, if it's not for the audience, they're going to know and the audience, our viewers of things that we create, they define what good content is.
Yes.
We as curators do not.
Nope.
We can bend, mold, guide, lead. At the end of the day, yes, it can Martin Scorsese create something that's beautiful, and then people will feel something going into the movie and say, okay, well, it's Martin, so it's going to probably be good.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, if it's not good and what they deem to be good and what they perceive this to be,
Yes.
it's not good.
Right.
Bottom line.
Yes.
I mean, dollar amount, right? So I think that's a huge thing that I've learned, and I think I learned post meeting you. Was
Because you were like 9 years old when I met you initially, Jay.
Yeah,
So there's that.
you know, so I give myself grace.
As you should.
But the honesty of like, you know, I came into this community, which is it's a unique community. But also with, you know, just I've done these things. I have filmed. I've been on a hip hop tour with Catapult Records. I've shot for Gary Vaynerchuk. I've shot sports teams and important people. So now whatever I should do should be good.
Yeah.
And I didn't communicate that in sales meetings. I didn't talk about the other people. It was about what I had done. This a similar nuance.
Yeah.
Me so much further behind you in that scheme of things in that world, but a very similar experience that
Yep.
I'm now remembering and re-experiencing for a second time of, yeah, that does make sense of why I complained about why don't people want to work with me? I've done all
Yeah.
these things already, when there was no value or even an availability for them to understand that I understood them at all. You know, it's just whatever
Right.
I have to offer. Now
Yeah.
you're going to want it because of X, Y, and Z. And they're like, you don't know anything about me,
Right.
which was completely true.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it just didn't connect and didn't land. And now we're a little better at it now.
It's a hard lesson, though.
Yeah.
I mean, because I think we're taught that credibility carries real water, and it does. There's no question that where you've been, who you've worked with, what you've done matters to an extent.
Yes.
But it's a little bit like your GPA. So when you're in high school, your GPA matters because you want to go to college. And when you're in college, it matters because you maybe want to go to grad school, this, that, and the other. But when is the last time someone said to you, what was your college GPA? Nobody gives a hoot.
Never, not once.
No.
Not one time.
I mean, I don't even know what mine was. I could guess, but I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I was an amazing student or a poor student. I have a degree,
Yeah.
and it's how I utilize what I got from that and bring it to the conversations, bring it to the opportunities that matter. So I think you're absolutely right. It's easy to think, well, if I just drop these names, people will go, wow, I'm lucky to get to work with him. And that will work for a little while,
Or some,
or for some.
which not good culture fit now, but
But I think really that's such a great example of, if you've got that body of work behind you and you're curious about who you're with, that's Hollywood
that's the
gold.
sauce.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah. What do most people get wrong about how leaders are supposed to show up, or what they've been taught or told, like the MSUM students of eyebrows and don't look at people? You know, is there maybe a similar nuance of maybe those students and leaders aren't that different of what people get wrong about how they're supposed to show up?
I think leaders often believe they have to show up and know everything, and that to admit what they don't know weakens them or creates doubt in their teams. And how could anybody know everything? And why would you want to be with somebody who did?
Right.
So I think the human side of being a leader is to be willing to say, wow, I don't know. Let's figure it out. Or I don't know, but it feels like this is a great question for, or again, sort of creating that shared space so that other people can express their opinions, express their expertise, can share their insight, can ask questions, can also feel like they can say, I don't know either.
Yeah.
What would it look like if we failed fast, if we tried something? I mean, what if we set the stakes low enough that we could just try some stuff and see what happens? I mean, that's sort of what you're doing with the podcast. You've set the stakes as high as you can set them, given your circumstances, your time, your resources, all those things. And maybe it'll be a huge hit. Maybe it'll be a huge flop. Probably it'll be somewhere in the middle as it grows and builds. But you'll iterate on it as you go because you're trying some things. So I think that idea of you have to know everything, you can never expose any weakness or doubt or insecurity, keeps a lot of people from, again, sharing something vulnerable, which opens the door for anybody else to share something vulnerable, which is not to say that work should be basically one long therapy session. Like there's a line to cross. I'm sorry if you're having a bad day at home. Please don't lie on your floor at the office and cry. We don't have time for that. But there is a time and place for all of those things. And that really is set by the top down.
Yeah. And where do you think that premonition of they need to show up and know everything comes from?
Media. Think about what we think we know about offices if we don't have parents who work in offices. So I'm from a family,
I
100% of teachers. So I still have never really worked in a real office, which I feel very happy about. But what do I think an office is? It might be Mad Men. It might be The Office. It might be, boy, I can't even think of other TV shows. But media sets the tone for what we think is true. And if someone's thinking, well, that's not true, then I would say, what's the high school prom look like in every teen film? It looks way better than any prom that's ever happened in the history of proms. What's a wedding look like? We base what our lives are going to look like on the media that we consume. And so between real media, like film and television, and now what we're seeing from just your average person and a phone, if everything is super curated and super perfect and nobody's willing to show up and say, wow, did I drop the ball today? Then we believe that's how real leaders show up.
Totally. Absolutely, yeah. There's, I think, a lot of that, especially in our, I guess in my upper crust of the millennial generation of entrepreneurialism and hustle. And and I think now there's content about exposing a lot of those things where down in, it's a popularized thing about like Miami Bros, where there'll be like 5 guys, and there's always these skits where it'll be a guy that shows up with like their Lamborghini and like the nice watch, and he goes, "Hey, it's my week, or it's my weekend with the car and the watch now." And then one person gets out, the other person gets in, and like starts a timer on when the next person gets it.
I love that.
And it's real. I mean, people do that.
Okay.
Which, like, I think if you monetize it correctly, it's a great investment.
Sure.
To go in on a $250,000 car and a $250,000 watch between 5 people and then live in a house and you make money that way, versus just doing it to come off as a certain way,
Sure.
for I guess, I mean, it doesn't matter what you do with your money. Technically, it doesn't matter to me, but yeah, I think there's a lot of those things now that are exposing a lot of those things, that the performativeness of the entrepreneurial hustle culture thing. And I think there's enough of the general pushback of like this hustle thing was sold to us 5-7 years ago, and it's not actually like glorified anymore.
COVID taught us some really incredible lessons, and that's one of them. A, it taught us that not everything needs to be an in-person meeting. And B, it taught us that not everything is quite as rosy as it seems. And you can work really hard and get nowhere. Which isn't, I'm not trying to be a doom scroller, doomsdayer, but I get really weary in the entrepreneurial world of anybody who says, here's how you secure your 6, 7, 8 figure career. You show up, you be authentic, and you be real. Okay. I've done that for a really long time. I'm not making 8 figures. I think there's no one way to do any of this work. And so you have to do what works for you and set down what everybody else appears to be doing, because it may or may not be accurate.
Yeah. I mean, well, what's that one thing that's related back to like drugs? It's like, it's like what, don't don't dump them in your own stash, only
Hot.
don't consume your own product or
Oh,
whatever,
okay.
kind
Yeah.
of the same like social media thing, right? Like if you curate content for social media, probably don't be on social media. Like don't scroll unless it's for a very intentional
Yeah.
research purposes. I might do a lot more research from 8 to 10 p.m. at
We're all
home.
doing serious research if that's the case.
During my lunch break, for
Yeah.
15 minutes, I maybe
Sitting
do
at
some
the
deep,
stoplight. Yeah.
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 So, but yeah, some kind of nuance of right. Don't whatever. I can't remember what the phrase is right now. But yeah, I think it's also interesting nowadays when you look at, what was it? I think even Taylor Swift was the person that said this, and this was maybe even 10, 12 years ago about this age of social media is so interesting because the piece of like, say you're a kid, say you're a child, and when I was a child, if I didn't get invited to a sleepover, I'd hear about it on Monday from Friday.
Yes.
But nowadays you are
Yeah,
watching
you're
this
watching it
thing
happen.
live of your friends
Yeah.
hanging out without you, or you have locations on, or Snapchat map, or whatever weird location
Parents are
thing.
stalking their children
Yeah,
in the
first that
creepiest of ways.
Yeah, but then it's like, I think now with like the entrepreneurial side is you have all these people that are these influencers, right? Which maybe you could debate. I'm maybe trying to come into that realm more than not. That are showing I'm 22 years old and I have a Lamborghini in this house and I have these watches and I have this plane and yeah, a lot of it probably is true to a point, but it's also now that our sphere of relative imagery is so much higher than it used to be, which there's pros and cons to
Yep.
to everything, right?
Yep.
I think a lot of the last meaningful innovations in technology ended before 2010 did, and things that added to our quality of
That's
life.
interesting.
That you could debate that AI helps, but was it like the first PlayStation that like revolutionized sleepovers? And like the first flip phone, cell phone connected
Yeah.
us. But
Yeah.
then now the gravy on top of that, does that smother it or does it lift that up now into what it's doing?
That's a good question.
And I think that's one of my takes, being someone that grew up without technology in a very integrative way and then kind of grew up through it. And now being someone that all of what we're doing is a benefit of technology. So maybe I'm a little bit of a hypocrite to say some of those things, but yeah, it's an interesting point to understand the perspective of what media trains us to do or how to act
or to expect.
interact.
I mean, what do people who don't live in America think Americans live like? In my young generation, they thought everybody lived like Friends. That apartment would be $3 million a month. I mean, come on. And so my husband's not American. His great disappointment, this is a lot of information, but his great disappointment is that he didn't marry a cheerleader. He was just certain if he got to America, he would date a cheerleader. Again, not unlike Miss America. Have you met me? But that's, kind of beside the point. Yeah. But it just, we have things we expect about other cultures. They have it about us, and it's 100% media based.
Totally. It's all there is to reference it off of. So what else?
Yes.
I mean, where else would your imagination go if there's nothing to start or go to?
Yeah.
So
yep. Until you meet someone from someplace, all you can depend on is what you can watch on TV or some other device.
Which is why it's important to market and create videos, because people don't know anything about your brand unless you do that. So anyways.
I feel like that needs a little musical asterisk.
Yeah. But going back to, going into the timing when you work with leaders who do want to deepen their presence, they want to undullify themselves.
That sounds so terrible. I sound like such a pretentious nitwit.
No, I said that.
Yeah, but I agreed with you wholeheartedly and quickly.
Yeah. But there seems to be a moment in where the conversation has to move past, the posture and the eye contact and maybe the more rudimental things that get them into something maybe more personal. So what does it actually take to help someone to become more curious about themselves, especially when that part of the journey feels risky?
I think it just takes a lot of curiosity on my part and a lot of listening. I tell this story a lot, but I was working with a client who is in a very regulated business and has a number of leadership positions now regionally. And he was telling me this story about being a young man and losing his dad early in college, and spending a lot of time with his sister and brother-in-law, and being from a big family, and they all drew names. And when his dad was dying, the brother-in-law and he played a lot of chess. So the Christmas after his dad died, the brother-in-law drew this man's name for Christmas gifts. And so he carved him a chess set, which he still has 50 years later.
Yeah.
And so I said to him, how could you use that story in your work? And he said, well, I couldn't. And I said, okay, here's how I would use it. You're dealing, even though you're in a very regulated business, you're dealing with humans, you're dealing with families, you're dealing with legacy, you're dealing with generational transfer of wealth, you're dealing with facets of, I worked with my dad and my grandpa, or my dad, my uncle, my brothers, what you're dealing with, a lot of family dynamics. And there's a lot of stress and strain around that, even when things are good, because it's hard to, who's conceding control, who's, who's stepping up, all those kinds of things. This story is this beautiful reminder of this is what family really is. So when we're in the middle of the business challenges around being in a family business, and we're sitting in front of someone who's helping us figure out, how do you sell this? How do you leverage that? How do you invest this? How important is it to be able to tell a story that says, okay, so I'm from a farm family. We had this chaotic event happen when I was a young man. Could have gone this way, this way, this way, this way. And instead, what I remember when I think about that is this story. It reminds everybody sitting on the other side of the table that you are first and foremost a family, and that your job is to care for each other across who married in, across blood, across generations, across all these things. If you can remind somebody of that, maybe then they can come to the table and have these very hard fiscal conversations, generational transfer conversations in a different way. Well, that is not a story he ever would have considered telling, because it was just, he didn't see any connection. It required me I don't even remember what question I asked him that brought that story out. But then it required me as an outsider making that connection for him and helping him see the value of being able to tell that story to a room of people who work in this regulated way, but who are first and foremost dealing with humans and families and neighbors in their communities. That's how you humanize your story, humanize your message. And that is how a leader shows leadership and shows value for the mission, by humanizing themselves.
I believe what you and I do in that capacity is very similar in the whatever you want to call it, partnership, contract, relationship, to inspire belief in one's own journey and story, which becomes mundane. Like what we just talked about, even before this, of this office was my dream 5 years ago.
Yes.
And now it is what it is.
Now it's your reality.
And I think, well, maybe I shouldn't even make videos about what I do until we get like a bigger office or something different. And I think that's a huge piece of what we do. Or I guess what my role is when I work with businesses. Like, oh, we don't really have this cool mission. We just like donate $5 million a year to this nonprofit, and we build houses for people that can't afford it, and we give back to like our team members. And I don't know, our business isn't that cool. And I'm like, are you insane?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, you don't see the forest for the trees after a while.
Right. But then what can people do? And I'm guessing this is why you exist, and this is why you are where you're at, and what you're doing is incredibly useful. But what can people do that maybe don't have that soundboard to look at themselves in a canvas that isn't reflecting what they see in the first part of the brain to go into their lives and find those stories and those meaningful moments that connect us to each other as human beings?
I would go to AI actually, and I would just type in, ask me 10 interesting questions about my life. And see what it says. I don't know what it's going to say. I've never done that. But if I didn't have me to ask questions, then that's a great place to start, because maybe one of the questions will be, talk about an important moment with a parent or a grandparent. And what you might remember is, playing Candyland with your grandma when you were 3 years old, and whatever. I mean, what it will do is what is so important and so hard for so many people is it will crack open the door of your memories. And once you do that, once you walk through that door, then all of a sudden stuff starts to ripple beyond it. So then you're thinking about, oh, that's right. And then she and I went to the grocery store and we used to buy this cinnamon bread, which I loved because it was made by Joe, and Joe was related, and it just all kind of unravels in front of you. You may not walk away from that project or prompt with something perfectly constructed, but you will have given yourself the opportunity to just jump in. And maybe at that point, you still might want to sit with somebody and say, help me figure out, is there any value in these stories, or how can I make them relatable? Because what I do is I'm a crop adjuster. How do I make this story about Candyland relate to that? I mean, that's where I think AI is really valuable. And I say that with the understanding that that's work that I do with people that you can go do for free. That's fine. Everybody's got to have a place to get started. Not everybody can afford a coach. Not everybody wants a coach. Not everybody needs a coach right this minute. But everybody should be thinking through their life's experiences, thinking about, how is what I've lived meaningful, even if it's just to yourself. So I think that's a great place to get started. Or if you're lucky and have grandparents alive, sit down with them and ask them to tell you some stories, because they'll probably trigger some things for you. If a grandparent were sitting here, so my grandparents would all be over 100 if they were alive. If they were sitting here listening to us talk about, growing up in that transitional time from very remedial technology to what we have today, and me being a young adult into that, they would say things. I mean, two of my grandparents would say, well, we didn't have indoor plumbing till I was 22 or, whatever. So, okay, that's a really different story.
For sure.
And that might trigger something for me. And so I think it's about deciding that what you've lived matters, even if it only matters to you right this minute. And then being curious about it. Be curious about yourself. Maybe put the friggin' phone down on your lunch break. And ask yourself a question and reflect on it. See what comes of it.
It's such an interesting nuance between the relationship with the things that you maybe were aspirational at one point and then become benign the next, and then it's just the cyclicalness of.
I will never, as long as I live, forget. So my son and I lived in income-based housing for the first 10 years of his life.
10 years.
And I was reading an article from the actor Naomi Watts. And she was talking about when she first moved to Hollywood, she slept on a couch at Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman's house because she and Nicole Kidman had been friends in Australia. And she talked about getting her first big audition and going to Banana Republic to buy an audition outfit. And she said, I mean, can you imagine Banana Republic? And she said it like it was Kmart. And at the time, I remember reading it and think, someday I hope I can buy something at Banana Republic.
That was always a nice store.
It's a beautiful store.
I still think it's a nice store.
You and me both.
For sure.
But the point is that perspective is everything. Once you're making $10 million a film, then I suppose Banana Republic is the Kmart of your world. But most of us are not making $10 million a film multiple times a year. So I think perspective is really valuable. I think once a dream becomes your reality and your reality becomes the mundane, it's time to do two things. It's time to go back and say to yourself, all right, I'm going to stand in this room and for 5 minutes, I'm going to imagine what 6 year ago me would say to be in this room all by myself. You're not doing it with anybody. You don't need to do it online. You're just going to stand right here and think about that. And then you're going to say, and what is 6 years in the future me going to be doing that I can't even imagine yet? Because if you're not doing that, then you're not really willing your path into reality. You willed this into reality. You didn't just walk into this, you built this.
Yeah, I definitely didn't
So,
work 100 hours for
so
this
then
nothing.
what are you building right now
Yeah,
that 6 years from now you'll go, yeah, this is my stuff.
yeah.
It's amazing.
But
Amazing
me
to think
today
about.
would be like,
Yeah.
hopefully someday.
Yes.
That'd be nice.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. It's exciting.
So moving into this path, right, of what did we start off as theater kid, arts organization, later then a coach, right, and a podcast, right?
Yeah.
But moving into maybe, right, this second section of it, right, part two of, so when you left the arts partnership, you described becoming irrelevant almost overnight.
Yes.
People who were your network, who were your community, were suddenly not there.
Yep.
And what we believe and what I believe, I think what you know, is that this wasn't just a business lesson. But what was this period actually like for you? And what did it ask of you that you weren't expecting?
It was hard. I spent 4 or 5 months really sitting at home, just feeling very sorry for myself. I didn't think I'd made a mistake. It was definitely time for me to leave the arts partnership, but I felt like I must not have closed a loop somewhere, or people would have known and followed me. I mean, that's part of that audacious confidence,
Yeah.
And then I got really angry. I mean, I kind of went through all the cycles of grief.
Yeah.
So for a while I was like, fine, I don't like Fargo anyway. I'm just living here and it's stupid. And, the way like a fourth grader kicks the wall when they're irritated about something. I went through that phase.
Yeah.
And then I started to think, okay, you can sit and lick your wounds, or you can look and figure out what's next. So the year before I left the arts partnership, I met a woman named Becky who lives in Minneapolis but had gone to Concordia. And she does headhunting now, but she also produces musicals.
Ironic.
So I met her in Fargo Moorhead because she was trying to bring this musical she'd been working on to do a premiere of it in town. And somebody said, well, you have to talk with Dayna Del Val. She'll be able to help
She's the
you.
person.
So we had this great conversation. This would have been June of 2022.
Okay.
And so we're having this great conversation about the arts in Fargo Moorhead and this, that, and the other. And as we're wrapping up the meeting, she said to me, so what else do you do? Which nobody ever asked me. Everybody just assumed that I ate, slept, and breathed the arts, which I kind of did. And I looked at her and I said, And so I had developed the original version of some work I was doing in 2020. I was holding retreats by this point and doing all of that. So I told her this. And she said, wow, I love that. I feel like we should do something around that with these monthly meetups that we have with our clients. And so she brought me to Minneapolis and I led a 3-hour session helping people kind of think through what did they want to do when they were young that they'd maybe forgotten about and whatever. So we had this great session. Okay, so that was 2022. Then I'm 4 months into feeling in this full pity party, poor me.
Yeah.
And I reached out to her and I just said, Becky, I have to grow my network. And it's pretty clear to me that it's not going to be Fargo. So do you have anyone based on the work I've done with you that you could connect me to? And she wrote back almost immediately and said, yes, I'm going to connect you to these 3 or 4 or 5 people. And then it just went from there. They each connected me to people and they each connected me to people. So over the course of 2 or 3 months, I had about 60 calls with people who showed up kindly and curiously to learn about me. And what happened in that time is I became much clearer on what I was doing, because when someone says, so what do you do? Between the first time you answer that and the 60th time, if you are paying attention, you've gotten better at it.
Hopefully.
You're more succinct.
Yeah.
And I started to grow a little network. So my mom happens to live in the cities now. So when I was down there, I would reach out to 3 or 4 of them. And so now I'm meeting them in person. And now I'm, doing work with them, and they're becoming clients, and I'm working, they're becoming coaches for me, and I'm doing all these things. And that really is how I moved from, why isn't anyone paying attention to me, to, well, okay, so this group doesn't care about me for whatever reason. I can be mad about it, or I can go back to, I'm like mayonnaise. You either like me or you don't.
Interview. Yeah.
And if you don't, I'm not going to give any more time to trying to get you to pay attention to me. I don't wish anybody here ill. But they're not my people for whatever reason. Okay, that's fine. Guess what? I don't need them to be my people, because we live in the time of incredible technology. If I were my grandparents and we didn't have indoor
For
plumbing,
sure.
I need my community to care about me.
Yeah.
I don't need that today. So today I'm coaching people in Los Angeles, in New York City, and Germany, and London. And I'm having conversations with people all over the world. And that is a real delight. But it came because what I thought I could count on did not follow through for me. And that's not to say everyone in my network, because there are many people who've been enormously supportive of me in this time. But it was the leaders I thought were going to be, were going to follow me to some extent, who really didn't. And that was hard, really hard.
Yeah. I mean, what's that cliche saying of, like, the pot, or the plant potted in the wrong pot only grows so large, or right, the environment that it's in determines its growth, or determines what it believes about its own growth, or or ability, or whatever that saying is.
Whatever it is, the point is absolutely accurate. If my Fargo network had seamlessly moved across and said, oh, I want you to come and talk to my team, and I want you to come and do this work with, my group, and oh, I've got friends, we're going to do a retreat, that would have been lovely. But this is a fairly small network. And that's not to say that they couldn't have helped me grow, but having to really bootstrap it on my own, which is really how I've always had to live my life. I bootstrapped pretty much at the Arts Partnership. I didn't step into nothing, for sure. But I had to grow a lot of those relationships on my own. I bootstrapped it as a single mom. I bootstrapped it as a wife whose husband is in recovery. I bootstrapped it in this way too. It's kind of what I know. It's kind of where I can lean on myself, my confidence, my belief in, I'm here to do something and I'm not giving it up. And so it just took longer and looked different than I thought it would. But not unlike you, 3 years ago, Dayna Del Val, who was finishing up the last couple of weeks at the Arts Partnership, could not have believed the clients I'm working with today. I mean, I would have said, no way will I get to those people. So that's exciting.
Absolutely. When you think back to the relationships that you had, I would be remiss if I say built, I'd maybe say forged at the Arts Partnership, for the Arts Partnership, for our community, for our area. And there clearly was, or is, or had been a differing perception of what those relationships were and are today. And where do you think the misalignment in what that expectation of what that was in that given time of your role in knowledge and clarity, and then now with the coming with your head above water, with looking down a little bit more now, or back, of why there was maybe a disparity of that differing knowledge of those relationships and what they were or weren't?
So I would say the downside to a very healthy sense of confidence is that you can drink your own Kool-Aid. And I would not have said I was drinking my own Kool-Aid, but I was 100% drinking my own Kool-Aid. I did not adequately understand the value of being able to say, I'm Dayna Del Val, comma, President and CEO of the Arts Partnership. I did not give enough weight to that very understood title. So I assumed that when I stepped away and didn't have that title, it wouldn't matter.
You'd be still Dana, the same
Right.
earned title
Yes.
without the title
Without the
behind
title
Dana.
and the organization. And that was the mistake that I made. And so what I learned from that is have a little, is it telling that I can't think of the word? Humility. Have a little humility.
Yeah.
Recognize when a role actually maybe gives you more credibility, more status, more opportunity than you'd have without it. Utilize that asset while you have it and be prepared to have to rebuild when you step away from it.
And thinking now back to, your grief timeline, and all those emotions and feelings and thoughts and reflection and processing and growth and other negative things, right? When did you maybe realize that thought of, yeah, maybe that title did mean a lot more than maybe I wanted it to at the time?
Yeah, pretty quickly. And I realized that I had not given the proper respect to not just the title, but to the role. I mean, I took that job very seriously. It was a real job to me. It mattered to me. I believed in what I was advocating for. I still believe in that work. But I thought that I was creating the role and was not adequately understanding how the role was creating me. And so the only reason that I think I'm able to do what I'm doing now is because what I learned in the role of president and CEO in the arts at the Arts Partnership. I learned how to have big conversations with big leaders, people who've got money and power and resources that I could never have had without that job title. And I did know that always. I knew that that opened doors for me. What I didn't realize is that not having it would shut doors for me. That's what I didn't count on.
And why did it hurt so badly after that fact of when the doors were no longer open after that?
At its most basic, because I thought those people were friends of mine. I mean, I thought we were both friends and colleagues. And I felt really humiliated. I mean, I felt like, so for 13 years, I worked hard to make my name the name that when someone was talking about the arts, somebody in the room would say, you need to talk to Dayna Del Val, because that's what I heard over and over and over again. And before that job, I was less than nobody in this town. I mean, I don't come from a family who, my dad is not from here. My dad doesn't even live here. So I didn't have a name to lean on the way some people do, which isn't to negate the work that anybody's doing, but a name opens doors. My son benefited from being a Del Val because by the time he came of age, I was fairly established. So I knew that job had done that for me, but I thought that was the entree and that I had continued it. I didn't realize that the title was what apparently continued it in most instances. And that just made me feel bad. I am a relational person. I don't really care about transaction. I want to talk to somebody because they're interesting, not because they might give me money. If there's a transaction to be had that makes sense for both of us, fantastic. But I am first and foremost relational. So to realize that these relations that I thought I was in, these relationships, were relational for me, but transactional for them, made me feel really bad. And it also made me feel really naive. And that was embarrassing. I was 50 years old. I didn't want to still be so naive at 50.
Yeah. Relational for you, transactional for them.
Yeah. And you know what? That's okay. I mean, I can look back now and say not everybody needs to feel everything about every relationship the same way. There's a lot of transactional relationships. Like for a while, because when I was doing a lot of commercial work, I was depositing little checks all the time. So I really got to know the bankers at my bank.
Sure.
Okay, those were relationships, but when they left or went to a different branch or moved away, I didn't track them down. I knew things about them because you're just having conversation in your waiting for the check to go through. But that was a transactional relationship that was friendly. And so I actually have never even considered that until right now. That must have been what a lot of these relationships were that I thought were deeper than that. They were just transactional relationships that were friendly. Okay, that's okay. I can say that's okay now because I've built a whole different network.
Yeah. Because it is okay.
It is okay. We don't have time and space in our lives to invest deeply with every person we come across.
Can't.
Yeah.
Regardless, that realization.
Well, Jay, I like you.
Yeah.
You and I are not friends.
Yeah.
We are friendly.
For sure.
If I see you, I'm happy to catch up with you. You and I are not going to start hanging out because we've spent this time together.
For sure.
And neither one of us needs to feel bad about that.
For sure.
It's just a reality. Great. Let's move on. So, I mean, if you can get to that healthy place of sort of putting your relationships or these connections you have with people into buckets, then you spend a lot less time wondering, well, how come these people don't still like me? I don't think those people dislike me. I think I'm no longer of value to them in the way that I had been. And so there isn't time or space in their lives for me. But that took a long time to get to.
Absolutely. I think we're all still learning and navigating that as time goes on. And we're all only, again, like you said, as aware of ourselves as we are.
As we need to be.
Or can be.
Yes.
Right. And
it was fun to be the person at the table. It was
only
fun
imagine.
to have someone say to me, everyone tells me I have to talk to you.
Yeah.
I really grew to enjoy that and take it for granted.
I mean, how many years were you there?
13. Almost 13.
13
it's a
years
long time.
becomes your reality, which then no longer becomes aspirational or you're the person and you've heard it and now this is what it is. And
now it's just, of course.
How much that helps add, exponentially lowers, I'm sure, each time it's said, and then you've already internalized it. So then that's what it is. And
yes.
It's no longer.
It's not special.
It's not the 30-year ago performance of the million different acts and
it's
not the same.
No,
it's not that one thing that built up because you've heard it thousands of times probably. And I mean, that's why you and I met. I mean, I think I probably asked Patrick Kirby. I was like, hey, who's the person? All the nonprofit people.
Yep.
And he's like, Dayna's the arts person.
Yes.
And you need to go talk to her. And he's probably the one that probably introduced us.
Yeah, I bet he is. I'd be very surprised if it wasn't.
And yeah, I think it's the beautiful aspect of us being flawed creatures is
willing to grow. I mean, I work hard now to be conscious of the relationships that I'm building, to be as relational as I can be, as makes sense, to
being fair to yourself.
Yeah, being fair to myself, and also to reach out to people who maybe I have nothing to gain from them, but I like them. So, I don't see them on a regular basis, but I try to keep as many buckets open as I can and be realistic about what I can do with them and how they can be beneficial for me and the other person too.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a win-win, which I think is what we learn as children, but oftentimes again gets forgotten as time goes on.
Yes.
So, I mean, these going back to these calls, these 60 some odd calls, they seemed like they were kind of warm intros versus cold calls.
Absolutely. I never reached out to anybody who I was not introduced to.
Okay. Regardless, 60 calls. Like, I think you tell somebody they have to make 60 calls that isn't in sales, a sales role. Even if you are in a sales role, you're probably gonna be like, oh gosh.
Yeah.
What do those 60 calls teach you about yourself and the way that you maybe showed up via a phone call versus in a room. The disparity is different in the way you're able to show up visually and your nonverbal cues. So maybe what did that teach you about your own ways of showing up on a phone call? And maybe they were on Zoom as well too.
They were all
On
Zoom calls. I
Okay.
think I talked to one of those people on the phone. They taught me, some things that I adopted and some things that I immediately abandoned about what it means to be seen as a connector. That is definitely a strength of mine. And some of these people were incredible. They started and were really curious about me and wanted to know 2 or 3 very specific things, and then found ways to sort of share with me some things about them. And some people made my skin crawl. So the worst call I had,
Skin crawl like bad ways.
yes,
Bad.
the worst call I had, I got on with someone and she said to me, "Who do you want to know in my network? I'll introduce you to anybody."
Like, ooh.
And I said, "Well, I don't know because I don't know your network." She said, "Well, it's incredible. So you go through my LinkedIn and you tell me who you want to connect to."
Beep.
And I said, "But how would I even know if they were interested in, like, you
Yeah.
don't know anything about me. So how would I do that?" And she said, that is what I do. I connect people." And she would not go further than that. And it was so transactional that it felt illicit. I mean, it was, well, that was towards the end of my 60 calls, and it really, I had a couple more scheduled, and I was like, and scene. Because I felt like, all right, I've gotten a good
Done the
start. I don't need to just keep doing these warm lead
Yeah.
calls. I need to start taking these
Diving into the
and
things you
diving
already
in.
have. Yeah.
But what it taught me in that instance was, if you don't show up and have any curiosity about someone else, then that's not relational building either. That's not networking. That's not connecting.
It's not humaning.
No,
or
it's not
peopling.
humaning at
Yeah.
all. That's pure transaction. And I don't even know what she got out of it, except to be able, I guess, to say, well, I even met with some sad sack from Fargo, North Dakota, and connected her.
I was going to ask that. What did she have to gain to
Yeah.
being that, like, I'm just going to give you the value? And,
Yeah.
and maybe that was their way of doing that. But, I mean, why would you
Why
cut
would
to the
you
chase
risk
so
your
fast?
network
With somebody
by
you don't
just
know?
introducing anybody to them?
Value alignment is very low on that. For
Really
sure.
weird. So that I learned that. I learned definitely what not to do. I think it confirmed some things for me that I was already doing, which I had started to doubt, because what really happened when I was texting these people who I'd had great relationships with, and I wasn't hearing back, was I really started to doubt me. And because we are always thinking about ourselves and always certain that we are the most important person in the
Yep.
universe, I was telling myself stories that I must have done something that offended them. I must not have been who I thought, whatever. And what I realized was it isn't about me. Again, I served a purpose in this person's life. They don't need to feel as strongly friendly about me as I feel about them. It is what it is. And so I learned to go back to trusting that I am a good connector, that I do have something to offer, that I can make an ask and also create space for, is there anything I could do for you? And it was really interesting. There were times where someone would say, I've always kind of wanted to, like a woman said to me, I've always wanted to speak at the Women's Connect at your Chamber of Commerce. Is there anyone you could connect me to? And so I was able to do some of that, which felt really good.
Totally.
Because I didn't want to just be taking.
Yeah.
I learned to get succinct. I learned to figure out, well, what is it I'm trying to do and how do I talk about it?
Yeah.
I learned how to, this was a big one, and I'm still learning it. I learned how to not be ashamed of being from Fargo, North Dakota. I never intended to be here. I was going to be a movie star. And so I was going to Los Angeles, and lots of things conspired against that. And so I have been here all this time. And there's some internal shame around that I really had to figure out, deal with, because when I do this, I'm in Fargo, North Dakota. I open the door for everybody else to go, ugh,
Yeah, Fargo. Ugh, gross. You're
gross.
right.
Yeah. And if I say, I'm in Fargo, North Dakota,
Like,
people go, like the movie? Like the TV show? I've
Interest-
never been to North Dakota,
Yeah.
whatever.
Neutral at worst.
Yes,
Right.
yes. But I learned to set that tone, because even in Minneapolis, there's that kind of Fargo. There can
yeah.
be.
Yeah, competing cities or
yes.
whatever. The big.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And the hierarchy that we all build.
there.
I'll never forget one time going to Los Angeles to meet with about 20 agents years ago, obviously. And mostly what they would say to me is, well, you should move to New York and get started there, get some credits, and then come to LA. And then I went the next year and met with a bunch of agents in New York City. And to a person, they said to me, well, you should go to LA, get some commercial credits under your belt, and then come to New York City. This was clearly pre 2008 bubble, because that really killed New York's commercial world. But at any rate, what was interesting is everybody is trying to be the big dog. So if Minneapolis is the big dog,
sure.
Fargo's
Go
the puppy
over
to
there,
kick.
go back to
if you're in
LA.
Chicago
Yeah.
and you're from Minneapolis, well, then you're from the tiny place.
yeah,
If you're
the
in
little tiny little
Atlanta and
city.
you're from Chicago, then you're from the little
Yeah.
hayseed place. So what it helped me do is just decide, I'm going to bloom where I'm planted. And luckily I can be planted here, but I can reach everywhere I want to go. So there were a lot of lessons to take from it.
Yeah. So now, maybe moving a little bit to Audaciously Visible and Brave Middle Ground. So those two platforms that you run, they feel connected, but also distinct at the same time. It seems like Audaciously Visible is about showing up fully. Brave Middle Ground is about staying in conversation across difference.
Yeah, that's certainly a very fair
Take.
evaluation on it.
Okay.
Yep.
How do you think the relationship between those two ideas, connect, collide, but at the same time, what do they share at the root of what they both do?
So initially they did not. I had no intention of starting a podcast. I just, I'm not high tech. I don't have an editor on staff. And I don't really care about all of that. I love when it's good, but I'm not going to invest in that piece of it. And so for me, it felt like, well, why would I start a podcast? There's 20 gabillion podcasts. What do I have to add? And then I was so distraught, continue to be so distraught at the outcome of the 2024 election that I felt like I have to do something that doesn't put me behind bars. So I decided, well, okay, what if I created a platform where hard conversations could be had that are either because we're opposed or because they're just hard conversations that people aren't having? What would that look like? And would that give me a space as someone who's willing to share hard personal information? Am I the right person to ask these questions, to reveal my own vulnerabilities, to bring up topics that maybe other people aren't talking about? So that's really where that came about. Audaciously Visible came after that because I was doing some other work that kind of evolved into that. Where I think they are starting to converge is it takes a lot of bravery to be audaciously visible.
For sure.
And to think that what you have to say matters, because there's always going to be people who disagree with you. There's always going to be people who think you're too big for your britches, who think you aren't qualified, who have a lot of criticism and feel compelled to share it with you. So to be in the middle ground of, look, I'm prepared to not be liked, I'm prepared to not be accepted, I'm prepared to be ignored, but I'm going to show up anyway, I think is audacious. So I think that's a piece of how they're converging. I think another way is that as I'm growing my coaching stable, those people will start to be guests because they're all doing really interesting work.
Right.
And so it's a way for me to continue the conversation, to give them a platform to maybe practice some of what they're learning with me, or to and to enlighten my audience. It's a way for maybe my audience to grow because their networks are different than mine. So I think that's how it will start to have some more synergy, because right now they feel very discrete because they were created for two really different reasons.
Yeah. And when did you come to that realization of, yeah, maybe these things could maybe rub up against each other a little bit more than maybe
I would say that it's been in the past since the beginning of 2026. And some of it is that I'm taking the summer off from the podcast. And so I'm going to use that time with my coach to be really strategic, so that when I come back in the fall, I think it will look and feel slightly different, because it will have this audaciously visible overlay built more on top of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So your podcast, you're the host.
I am.
I'm guessing. And as you think about having, these people come on to practice and somewhat of a safe but live performance, how do you think that will, I mean, maybe just describe that experience for yourself as you're performing at the same time, you're coaching a bit as much as you can without it feeling like, do this now or do that.
Yeah, go back and say that better.
Yeah, right, which you could. You could
Yes.
totally do that.
Yeah.
In podcasts do that all the time. But maybe describe that feeling now before you get to that, or maybe as you maybe had one episode, or maybe you're not.
Yeah, I've had no episodes of it yet.
Okay.
What I think it will be is, again, I think it will be a safe place for my clients to try something. But I do think that there's sort of this meta opportunity to do a little coaching in and around them, because it's how they are coming to me. Certainly not in a way that abuses the confidentiality of our relationship, but that gives an audience the opportunity to, again, hear an answer, and maybe me say, all right, I'm going to put on my coaching hat, and I'm going to say, what if we pushed that story a little further, or something like
Some
that.
live coaching, that's high value for sure.
Because I think what it does is it serves the client, who's the guest, but it also serves the audience, whether they ever come and coach with me or not. It gives them more content to think about for themselves. It gives them more content to feed to AI. It gives them ways to be working on this on their own. And I really am a believer that if you think about capacity in any sense, whether that's financial, time, maybe not time, but financial or expertise or generosity, I think that those are pies that are infinite. I don't believe that, well, if I give away too much, then no one will ever come and work with me. Because for me to say to someone, here's how you could tell a great story, is not the same as for me to work on a great story with someone.
Sure.
You're never going to get me feedbacking with you. That's a verb I just made up, but you know what I mean.
I'm here for it.
You're never going to get that unless you're working with me. So I don't worry about giving away content. Instead, I think the most generous thing I can do is to share content and let people use it to help them move forward, because who knows where they're going to go? Who knows what they're going to do? Who knows when they're going to come across someone and say, boy, you should go back and listen to Dayna Del Val, because she's sharing really interesting content. You just don't know where it's going to go.
Yeah.
The spirit of generosity has never not served me well. Putting that more positively, it has always served me well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think from our perspective, on unsolicited advice here wholeheartedly, right? So take it for whatever you want it to be or nothing. Doesn't harm me at all. But the age we're living in, the content and the messaging of what you're putting out is actually pretty much, I will say, 100% useless. It's you. And it's your personality. It's your delivery. It's all the things we just talked about is why you have what you're doing is important and valuable in a business and scalable, because that is the differentiator. And I believe through the age of AI and whatever else comes of it, this is more valuable in the disparity of AI slop generated stuff in high volume and low cost to the high ticket dollar. We will always do business with people in meaningful transactions
I
or
agree.
relationship driven product, service, SaaS, whatever you want to call it.
I agree.
Pieces. And it will only become more important to do the things that you're talking about, which then is what and why I say the message in the content and context, maybe not context as much as content of what you're saying, it's already all out there. Like
Right.
nothing
Yes.
you and I will
No.
ever say will
No.
be groundbreaking
Right.
or new, but how we'll say it will be unique.
Yes.
And that is something that I go back to the Gary Vaynerchuk thing of like, put as much stuff out there about you as possible, talk about all these things that you're interested in. And from Gary to Grant to Hermosi to any speaker, they all say the same thing.
Yeah. Yes.
But it's how they say
It's their
and
experience,
who they
it's
are,
their stories,
how they
it's-
relate it
yes.
back to. Then am I going to grapple on to this person or this person? And there's pieces and bits that we all maybe take from certain influencers, leaders, concepts.
Yes.
But yes, the way that you show up, the way you say it, how you tell your story, what your story is, all of our stories are so incredibly complex and unique. And yeah, I think that's again a lot of what you do translates a ton to what we do and how we
Yeah.
do it, because if we don't implement the things that you're talking about, we're just showing up and saying, here's my business on
Right.
5th Street, we're open at this time and here's our sales. And it's like, you could do that in like the 80s when internet didn't exist.
Yes.
But now we can fact check everything, we can price shop, we can get somebody to edit videos and overseas for $5
Yes.
on Fiverr.
Yes.
But like, why do I exist and what about what I do? And there's of course price barriers and things of why you would hire
Sure.
you versus going to
Yep.
ChatGPT. And
Yep.
at the end of the day, we don't want to do it ourselves. I
Right.
think is a lot of the
It's a
reasons
huge
why.
piece of it. If you're lucky enough to not have to do some of this
Yes.
stuff yourself,
Right.
it's a game changer when someone whose expertise is different than yours.
Yes.
When you can employ them to do it, it just means you get more time to be in
Scalability.
your zone of genius, however you want to think of
Right.
that. Yeah, absolutely.
Which I do think does take a certain person. I think I get some pushback when I say this. I think there's a difference between people that make a job for themselves and I think that build a business. And I think there's some people that I've met, that I've worked with, that usually aren't good clients, that maybe make more of a job for themselves, that aren't really ever trying to scale past where they're currently at.
Okay.
And I think it takes some certain level of humbleness to say, I'm actually not good at that thing and I should hire somebody else to do it versus just having myself do it forever, which then makes them basically go into, if I don't do this, then the business doesn't move forward. And I think that's the difference maker of not just the scale factor of how big the business is, but the mental mindset of, am I good at this? Do I love to do it? And should I be doing it? And if they answer, well, I'm not good at it, or maybe I'm good at it, but I
But I
shouldn't
don't
be
like
doing
it, or it's not a good use of my
don't like
time.
it, right?
Yeah.
Like what's the it's an EOS thing. It's like it's like love to do and great at,
Oh,
good at and enjoy it. You know, like don't like it but good at it, and then don't like it and bad at it.
Yes.
So you want to cut everything in the bottom half off as
Yes.
fast as possible.
Yes.
In obviously, a leadership C-suite executive role.
well, and the thing that's interesting about that, I think, is it's hard. It's hard to take that first step because it's always expensive to bring in a coach, to bring in an editor, to bring in a team, a designer, whatever it is. It's an expense because they have an area of expertise that you do not have. And so it's finding that time in your business where it makes sense to make the investment
Versus
trusting
expense, right? Yeah.
that the investment will pay off over time. So I just talked with a potential client the other day, and it was a very typical conversation. She's really interested. She wants to do more speaking. She's written a book. She was in the C-suite at a number of businesses. I mean, she's a perfect client for me. And she's done a little bit of speaking, knows she wants to do more.
Sure.
So then she said to me, but I don't think this is the right time. I think I should get some things booked and then come back to you. Okay, that's not the wrong answer. There's not really a wrong answer, but it's the safe answer because she's going to have a hard time getting booked because she doesn't know exactly what she wants to talk about because she hasn't really taken the time to humanize the message. So there's this whole ripple thing. So if she worked with me now, it would be an investment that I believe would pay off in bookings. If she waits till she's booked, she's going to wait longer.
Who knows when that'll happen,
Right.
or how often it will happen. in the
Right.
next-
Or she may be able to get booked for free, but that doesn't help her then have the money to work with
pay
a
for you,
coach.
yeah, right.
So it's not that I'm the only coach she could work with. It's that she's not willing to work with a coach yet till she gets some bookings. So she's trying to figure out, do I put the cart in front of the horse or the horse in front of the cart? And we all do that. So for the first almost 3 years of my work, I really labored primarily alone, making my pitch decks, making my this, that, and the others. And I had worked with a coach on and off on some other things. And then we were having a conversation in December. And she said to me, okay, I'm just going to tell you because I know you and I love you and I want to see you succeed. It's time for you to bring me on. And it's time for you to bring me on in this way at this price point. And it was a lot. And I did it. And everything is changing. Everything. It's the middle of April. I'm 10 to 15 months ahead of where I could possibly be if I had not taken the investment and the leap. It's not easy. I couldn't have done it a year ago. So
like fiscally, or
I couldn't have fiscally done
Sure,
it a year ago.
sure.
I could barely fiscally do it when I said yes in December, but I decided, all right, let's get going and see what happens. If I see some change, then we'll keep going. Well, I saw change almost immediately. So it's that balance, and it's delicate and it's scary, and it's everybody goes through it. When do you bring on a full team member? When do you buy the next high piece of tech equipment? When do you move to a new facility? It's
never comfortable.
All a gamble. But to go back to the grow to the size of your pot, I'm no pitch deck developer. So do I know how to use Canva? Kind of. Not well. It takes me forever to make something that doesn't look like someone without thumbs created it. She can put together pitch decks for me in 20 minutes that I'm happy with.
Yeah.
And so that's a decision that everybody has to make, whether they're going to bring your team in, whether they're going to bring me in, whether they're going
Someone else, yeah,
at some
whatever.
point you have to decide what investment is worth it and how much is your time worth. Because me investing in doing Canva pitch decks that are subpar and take me 10 hours, that's a terrible use of my time. Terrible. Even if my dollar amount right now isn't where I hope it will be someday, it's still not a good use of my time.
Yeah.
So you have to figure that piece out.
Yeah. What did somebody say? I think it was Theo Vaughn of all people, a comedian. He's like, nothing changes if nothing changes.
Yes.
Right.
It's Einstein's do the same thing, expect a different outcome.
Insanity.
Yeah.
Right.
You and I are a font of other people's quotes today.
Yeah. Just trying to use smarter people than me to communicate my message. Honestly, I know. So as the work gets bigger, right? More clients, more stages, whatever that looks like, right? Symbolically of stages, more reach. What are you most determined not to lose about the way that you do this, knowing now that we're in a new beginning, a new opportunity, and a new Dayna, maybe one might say. And what does your answer say about what you actually believe leadership is for?
Holy buckets. Okay. What am I determined not to lose? I am determined not to lose the pride at what I've built already and the joy of the hustle. One thing I really love about this is that if it works because I said yes. Now, it doesn't mean I don't have people around me helping me say yes, but ultimately I have to say yes.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, it's because I said yes. Or no, or however you want to think about it. I do better when it's on me, for me, from me, about me, because then I can manage my own emotional thing. And so I don't want to lose that. I don't want to get to a point where I don't really have a sense of what's happening. I think I was lucky that that started to happen at the Arts Partnership. I had such an extraordinary team, and they managed so much of it that I think that's some of why I got really comfortable thinking, well, of course people want to meet with me. And I lost a little bit of the scrap. So I want to keep the scrap to some extent. What do I think that says about leadership? I guess I can only really speak for me. I think there are lots of kinds of leaders and lots of kinds of successful leaders. For me, success is still standing on the edge and being afraid to jump and doing it anyway. That's the only place I'm really interested in being, because that is and that's what I kind of live for.
Kind of exciting, isn't it?
Yeah. It's exciting and scary. And that is essentially the same emotion, which is just to circle all of this back. Why I'm going to say you have to go to karaoke, because maybe your fear is actually excitement. It's the same. It happens in the same place in your brain.
Yeah.
What if it's something extraordinary?
The same feeling of when I was in that dance battle.
Yes.
I had that same thing, but I'd done it before and knew I was alive, and I knew it was gonna be a positive outcome.
Yep.
And it was for fun, and same thing before like a track or cross country meet. Like I remember I ran a triathlon. I ran bike to triathlon when I was in 5th grade.
Okay.
And I was dry heaving
Yeah.
for like 30 minutes. But I was excited.
Okay.
And before every track meet, I would never throw up, but I would just feel sick.
Yeah.
But it was, and then through the years, it was like, this is good.
Yeah.
Like I give a shit.
Yes.
I'm excited.
My body's preparing.
My adrenaline's gonna be on. I'm not running. Track was better, so shorter distances, so it was more useful to have adrenaline than in a 5K 3.1 mile race.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's interesting. So when you go back to the keeping the scrap, keeping this identity, keeping this, a bit of what it is now, are you actively running towards trying to, build that team again around you to help support that mission vision? Or what does that look like in terms of like hiring contractors full time, whatever you want to call them?
Yeah. It's funny to think about it. I mean, in this iteration of this work, I don't think I need more than I have. Even if it grows, because I mean, I'm not going to hire someone else to speak for me.
Yeah.
So if speaking grows, then I have to determine, all right, how much travel am I willing to do? How many talks make sense for me to do a year? How many workshops? What does that look like? I think growth for me is actually some more of what I'm doing, because this is kind of a new phase to be ramping so quickly. So some more of what I'm doing, but doing what I'm doing even better. So it's less about volume and more about the right kinds of people. And I don't mean that to sound elitist, but the right kinds of clients, the right kinds of experiences. I host a couple of different retreats, one that happens about 60 miles from here, and one that happens all around Europe. I go a different place every year. Okay, well, I want to keep doing those, but the price point will go up. And so then it comes down to, all right, how do I continue to provide something for people who are not going to spend $10,000 to spend a weekend with me? How do I not leave them in the dirt? But how is my value perceived as worthy of something more? So I don't know exactly beyond that.
So it sounds like you're chasing this ladder of quality in expertise, performance, rather than just the volume of having more clients at a similar offering level. That
Yeah,
maybe
that's a really interesting way to say it. More for more sake is not that interesting to me. What I say to the universe all the time is, give me more, and when you do, I will show you that I can be, grow, and do more. So more might be more clients, but I'm not looking for 100 clients. You know what I mean? I don't want to be a slave to this work. I want this work to serve what it needs to serve, and that includes me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One thing I've learned through my own therapy voyage is just being fair to yourself.
Yeah.
Is something that I've had to learn over the years. Just in not so much in the business sense, I guess, for me, just in like maybe personal relationships of what is fair and what am I respecting about myself as I navigate and maybe looking before I leap is one of my mom's famous quotes that she just told me that I've maybe not adhered to as people. I've heard it so often in my lifetime. But I've just got one more question, and there's one last question I have in here. But you had mentioned a couple times, right, of, our off-camera conversation of, me 5 years ago and being here, and then you talking about, you building this life or this business or this journey for the you in 6 years looking back. But what would you tell, I guess this two-part thing of what would you tell your younger self that you know now, and what age would you go back and tell that, Dayna? And what comes to your mind right away when I say your younger self?
22-year-old me.
Okay.
So I was in Southern Utah doing summer stock theater. I had just graduated from college. That was a midway point. So I was going to be there for the summer and then move to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So I found out I was pregnant 7 days after I got there. So, I mean, it made for a very, very challenging emotional summer. What I would say to her is, you are absolutely going to be who you dream of being, but it's not going to look anything like what you thought it would look like. And some stuff is coming that is so much more extraordinary. If I told it to you, you wouldn't believe it. So you're just going to have to trust that it's all going to be pretty remarkable. The good, the bad, the ugly, the hard, the lazy, the dull, the boring, the poor. It's all going to be pretty extraordinary. So just do it. You're going to be just fine.
Yeah.
You're going to be more than fine, actually. Yeah.
Right. It'll all work out in the end.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's not the end yet.
Otherwise, it's not the end.
So my grandpa always used to say. Do you believe in the statement that, you are the wonderful person you are today because of all the past experiences that you've gone through, good, bad, ugly, dull, whatever you want to say it is?
Certainly. For me, absolutely. I don't, maybe not everybody believes that, but 100%. I am 10,000 times the person I was because I married someone who became an alcoholic. And when he woke up and did the hard work of getting sober, he decided I was worth keeping around and worth reinvesting in. I mean, that's the greatest gift of my entire life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I wouldn't have picked it. Believe me. I wouldn't ask for anyone to go through that.
You wouldn't go back and say that's the top of the...
Yeah. Nope. That was...
A, B, or C, or D. That's not going to be the E that you write in.
Nope. That is not what I would have picked. But it proved to be really so much more important and so much more precious than I could ever have imagined.
Well, I don't think we'll dive into that because that could be a whole other podcast episode itself. And I'm very grateful that that I was included in that series with you and
that was amazing.
Maz
An amazing day that you and Patrick and Maz and I recorded that stuff.
Patrick was like, you're coming over to the studio, we're gonna shoot this thing. Gave me zero context at all. I'm like,
he didn't really know anything either.
I'm like, oh, it's Dayna. Like, yeah, I know Dayna, like for sure. Like, I'm like, what's your setup? It's all we're gonna shoot it at my place. And I'm like, oh God, like you don't want me to light this at all? He's like, no, we're just gonna shoot it at my place. It's gonna be good. I'm like, well, what am I gonna do? He's like, you're just gonna. It's gonna be awesome. Like just Patrick Kirby. Patrick Kirby is
100% Patrick.
Like, you should be there. It's gonna be freaking awesome, and it's gonna be what it is.
Yeah.
So the last thing I have, I know we're like at 4:00, so I don't know if you have a hard stop.
I need to be done within about 5 minutes.
Okay. So last thing I have, and we'll be done, is so each guest will write a question in the book that we ask the next guest that I don't read.
Okay.
They don't know. You
Okay.
don't know who the next guest is going to be. So it could be a carpenter, it could be a tech person, it could be
Fantastic.
landscaping person. So the question reads, we live in a world that often asks us why, in a way of justifying actions. So when was your favorite why not?
I think my favorite why not was when I asked Maz if we could go public with our story. Because I felt like, why not own it? People were really questioning why my life looked so incredible on social media. And I realized it was because they didn't know what we'd been through. And so I thought, why not share it and let people see that there's beauty on the other side of darkness, that there is hope on the other side of despair, and that just because something looks perfect right now doesn't mean that it wasn't complete rot earlier.
For most time it is in my
Yeah,
life, in
of course.
my experience.
Of course. So that was an incredible why not. I could not have imagined where that thing would go. It so far exceeded what I ever hoped it might do,
Yeah.
and it changed our
Amazing.
lives. So yeah, I mean, that's probably my favorite why not. My second one would be leaving the arts partnership. Not because I don't love the arts partnership,
right.
but because this has been some
is
journey
it.
so far.
Yeah. What was there any like societal pressures on that, like going public with him, or
Sure.
was
I
it
mean,
just
there
to
it
give some
felt
helps
it
me.
felt like the opportunity to be judged or criticized or worse was enormous. I don't know that I would have been brave enough to even ask him if he weren't a professor who was tenured, because I felt like, okay, well, that's going to give him some
There's a
stability.
line. Yeah.
In a regular job, I mean, people lose their jobs all the time for being alcoholics. He was just very fortunate that at MSUM, they saw it as a disease. You wouldn't fire someone for getting cancer, so they wouldn't fire him for being an alcoholic. I mean, I had the Minskew attorney tell me that they could not fire him for being an alcoholic. So that was huge. But that's not everybody's reality. So I don't know what I would have, if I would have been brave enough to do it, if I had thought he could lose his job over it. But even still, just the judgment that I thought could come our way was scary. And I just decided, judge away. If you want to judge someone who's been brave enough to get sober and stay sober and rebuild his life,
Probably look at them.
then there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So once he said yes, then that just became
Why not?
a scary, exciting leap to take.
Yeah, that same gagging
Yes.
feeling might have been there.
There was
a
some
little more
dry heaving.
often.
I won't lie.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. Well, Dayna, thank you so much for sharing your time and talent and your excellence, and it's been really fun to hear in alignment of what we do and the way that you bring out people's stories and help them understand it's not a nuance, it's not benign, and everything that you've done in your life has led you to where you're at, right where you should be.
Well, my gosh, thank you. This has been really, really a delight. It's been a delight. Thank you.
Yeah.